Good evening. It being on or after 7 o'clock on October 20th, I'm going to open up the meeting of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. And on the agenda this evening, we have some business items, and we have, I believe, 7 hearings. And it being on or after 7 o'clock, I'm going to open up a notice of intent, a continuation for 7 Lake Avenue. GCC 2016-14, if I could have the applicant and/or consultant, and if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
My name's Tom Hamlin. This is Dennis Quintal.
Thank you.
I made copies for everyone.
Space.
We could share.
We start keeping off the mics because it messes
Yeah,
up the.
yeah.
Small ones, if you want small ones. Maybe big ones better.
Okay.
So the plans have been modified as we discussed. We're not planning on taking down any trees except for the one 14-inch maple just to the left of the garage.
Well, that's it.
No, it's to be
Well, it
removed.
says that there are 2 here to be removed, a 14 and a 12.
No,
No,
the
you-
the 12 is outside.
100.
Oh,
It's outside
okay.
the
I see what
buffer
you're
zone.
saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I got this pink one.
When you said there were no trees to be removed.
Oh, sorry. Except
you meant
for,
within-
except for,
Within the buffer. Okay.
correct.
All right.
So realistically, just to interrupt, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's the tree that's gonna be removed. And this walkway that goes to the front of the house is gonna be removed. And those are the things that are gonna be taken out of the 100-foot. And we talked about this driveway that comes down.
Mm-hmm.
And we've moved it from within the 50 up to within 70, over 75 feet from the setback line. So now that's just into the area right beside that tree there. Gonna do some plantings just below that. We talked to Steve about that, the planting area right below that. And the only other changes are an addition of a walkway here and a porch in the front. So those are really the only things that are gonna happen within the 100-foot along with the dock.
Did you make any changes to the dock? Because I remember we discussed just the length of that.
I actually went out with my kayak and measured from the high water mark to the edge of the weeds, and it's 71 feet. And I've got the dock at 50 feet.
So there's really no boating inside of this area here.
Oh,
That's
so
what the
that's
concern
this
was.
here.
Yeah.
Well, the concern is we discussed is, you know, if you talk about swimming off the dock, you kind of create this gigantic swim zone around it, so.
Right, and there are 2 floats that are out actually further than that, just down the street from us, so.
But a swim float's not a dock, but that's
Oh,
different.
different zone, okay. Yeah. And I did get an application from the town for the dock.
Did they approve it?
He said there was no problem with what I had showed him. So,
But are you gonna have fixed pilings into the ground where it's attached?
there will be 2-inch pipes, there will probably be 2 of them.
So you definitely would need,
Temporary.
so if you're within the mean high water mark and you're putting anything into the ground, you'd need a chapter 91 permit.
Okay.
Because the water belongs to the state, doesn't belong to the town, doesn't belong to you per se. From that mean high water mark, that belongs to the state of Massachusetts,
Okay.
because it's a great pond.
The pipes won't be in that, the pipes will be on the land.
Oh, yeah, probably.
If it's
up in the
within the
land.
mean high water mark, it belongs to the state,
Okay.
yes.
Is this all invasive weeds in here, milfoil or whatever? Is that what that is? This border, this,
Those are actually surface. I went out and measured what was on the surface. But it does look like that aquarium plant, and I think that's an invasive species.
so there's
but-
no boating per se in here, no one's gonna come in here with a boat.
Correct,
Then my question would be, if the lake gets cleaned up,
yeah.
and it kills these plants, they're gonna be sticking out quite a ways, right? If that should come to pass at some point.
You no need to have the dock out that far, just
That's
cut
true.
it back,
That's
Okay,
true.
Well,
because it's,
Is it made of sections that
it's
can be
gonna be taken in
removed?
and out, right?
Yeah, it's
So,
gonna
I
be
mean,
temporary. It's
yeah.
gonna be floating.
oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was
no
gonna
need
just
to-
pull it out, in the,
No need to have it that long then.
exactly, all right.
So the sections out in the water are gonna be floating.
correct. Because I don't wanna leave them out in the ice. It would ruin it probably.
Let's see what else.
I can't remember where the old driveway went. Can you just trace? Because we did ask you to move it to meet the existing driveway. Sorry, I can't remember what
That's
it
okay.
looked like before.
Existing driveway's right here.
Right,
I
Yep,
think you meant the
uh-huh.
last drawing.
the last drawing. So where did
The
this?
other one came right straight down.
Oh, that's right, yes.
So, we were
Okay,
gonna
and
try to
we
have
did
like
ask
two
it to
axes.
curve in.
Yeah,
That's right,
so
that's
took
where
it
we
from
wanted
there
it.
and put it right up tight to this.
Because it used to be two
Right
side
down
by
to the
side.
driveway, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Lovely,
And
okay,
so
that's
we're
great.
eliminating all of that
Yeah,
impervious surface
yep,
from the buffer zone. The only other thing I didn't mention was there's gonna be a underground utility service that will
Okay.
have to be dug in, but that's just a temporary disturbance to put the underground electric in.
yep,
And they generally put conduit in, you dig the trench, put the conduit within a day, so backfill it, get approval for it, and then backfill it.
that's great.
And so,
And then this is
That's
the,
the planting.
the planting that
Yep.
we requested you
Yep.
put in there.
Yep.
Great,
and that's
Lovely.
gonna be right down in the bottom area where the drainage comes down, so it'll help intercept any runoff and filter some of the runoff that comes off the driveway.
could I just ask how the water is captured off the roof? Is it coming down gutters or,
Yeah, and we showed the gutters off to the right. It's going to be coming out onto the right side.
sorry, where the, I don't see the gutters. Can you show me where the gutters are?
Well, they're off in the front and the back, right?
Yep.
What do they look like on the, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the garage.
Oh, the existing garage?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's an existing structure. They go off to the back. The gutters run,
Oh, so they are gutters, it's not just sheet flow off of the roof or whatever?
no,
Okay.
the gutters right now.
Okay. Thanks,
And they drain to the rear. One of them does,
Okay.
one of them drains. to the front, yeah.
alrighty.
While we're pondering, I'll open it up to abutters. Are there any abutters to, Seven Lake? Yes, no? Any other issues?
I think that's everything we asked them for, according to my notes, is that it meets everything we asked them for, right?
Correct.
Lovely.
If there are no more comments and or questions, does anyone want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the NOI for 7 Lake Street, UCC 2016-14 to EP 1610827.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Let me date the plan.
7:15.
Relevant to the plan dated, yeah, 9/20, I was gonna say, that's way before our
Yeah.
prior meeting, 9/21/16.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to approve the plan for 7 Lake Ave, 9/21/16. Comments. I'd like to see in the conditions that it's spelled in the order that they apply for the appropriate permitting for the dock, that they local and or state.
I thought he said,
If,
Done local.
yeah, was providing if I have supports that they're outside the high water mark, and I can do that,
Then you'd only need local.
correct. And certainly I will do that, yes.
Also not accepting the wetland line.
That's a good point.
Not accepting the wetland line.
Because, we haven't really looked at the actual mean
Exactly.
high water.
Sorry. you're right.
Especially this year, it's a very different situation than the
Yeah,
past umpteen years.
exactly.
The pond's down many feet. Are there any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining?
abstain.
One abstention. I'll entertain a motion to close.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close the NOI for 7 Lake Avenue, GCC 2016-14 to EP 1610827.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to close the notice of intent for 7 Lake Ave, GCC 2016-14. For any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, all abstaining. Thank you.
The order of conditions, you will write those up and get
That's correct.
Tom, or do you
I'll
record
give-
them, or?
We'll give you a call, Tuesday, Wednesday to come pick them up. We'll get them recorded.
Tom will record them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll send them, I'll call whoever you want to pick up.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
We'll just email you when they're ready.
okay.
So you're all set? Thank you very much.
Great,
Thank you,
thanks.
thank you for your time.
All right. It being on or after 7:05, I'm going to open up a new ANRAD for 99 Central Street, GCC 2016-17, and this is a wetland delineation. If I could have the applicant and/or consultant, and if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Good evening. For the record, my name is John Moran. I work for the Moran Cameron Group. We're here tonight representing Maureen and Randy Sabino for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for their property located at 99 Central Street. Mr. Sabino is here with me tonight. Here's the abutter notifications.
Thank you.
So what you see before you, Central Street's on the easterly side or the right-hand side of the page. What you see in purple is the perimeter of the property. We had hired Mary Rimmer to go out and delineate the resource areas. There's a bordering vegetated wetland that pretty much runs along the southerly property line. Kind of comes out towards the north a little bit at the rear of the property and then back along the train tracks. The train tracks are out in the back here. Again, the only reason we're here tonight is just for the approval of the wetland delineation. And you're looking at about 446 linear feet of wetlands. It's not a big site. I mean, there's several dwellings on the property. The site is pretty much the majority of the site's cleared, and has been maintained for many years. And at this point, I'd open it up to questions from the commission.
Well, just wanted to make a point of fact, this is past our delineation season.
But when we submitted the ANRAD, we had submitted it, and I had talked to Steve, hoping that he'd be able to get out and review it before the delineation timeframe.
Well, we normally have a third party do the delineation.
Based on my discussions with Steve, he had mentioned that on smaller projects, the commission may not have a third party.
It's up to the commission.
Right.
And
So,
obviously, he can't make that call till we have the hearing,
correct.
till the commission votes whether it wants to or not. So, you know, here we are at this point. You know, we have a hard date that we have, and we're kind of past that season. So we're kind of in a difficult situation.
So we can't stuff all around here.
Yeah, we should have 200 feet off of property all around.
Yeah.
So, you want wetlands delineated 200 feet?
Well, don't we normally have 200
Yeah.
feet off the property?
Well, we can't delineate wetlands on other people's property.
I think in the past, permission has been gotten from abutting properties or like USGS and some of the other technologies are used, so it kind of shows estimated direction of wetlands. The concern is that the buffer is encroaching back on the property once they leave the property.
Yeah, but basically what we're trying to figure out is kind of what is connected to what's going on right offsite the property. I mean, obviously, we're not trying to encompass the whole community, we're trying to just see, you know, as opposed to looking with blinders on at a specific line that we don't know what's beyond that. You know, we see a rectangle here, but
Yeah.
right beyond that, I have no idea whether there's a cliff there or what. I mean, I have no idea. So that's kind of why we do it. I mean, you know, we might ask the applicant to, you know, try and contact the abutters and ask. I mean, if they absolutely say, no, you can't come on my property, you know, you can provide us with that data too. But we're trying to get a general idea on the site plan of like what's out there. The connectivity, is there a big resource area there? Is it a stream? You know, what have you.
So I'm kind of curious how the BVW just hugs that wall in such a straight line.
My guess is when that wall was put in way back, created and they used this property, that's how the wetland was created.
So is there a stream that runs through there anywhere off property through the middle there?
The stream, there was another property over here that was developed. There may be an intermittent stream out in the middle of this piece, which is actually owned by the town of Georgetown.
Is that the access to the rail trail up through there that was supposed to be access to the rail trail?
Correct.
That's right next to
And
that
there's
property?
Correct.
But that's strange because there's kind of a parking area almost.
Well,
And then there's Harmon, is there that new little development this
Yes.
side?
Correct.
Gosh. Okay. That's interesting because that's kind of up in the dry with a parking area. So, you know, my question about how big of a wetland it is if you had gone 200 feet off property, it would probably show this as a very, very small swale almost. Am I right?
Correct. And they could have done, I mean, it's town property as far as going 200 feet off property. We get, you know, you don't have to ask us permission to do that.
No,
So
you
they could
don't.
delineate that.
Yeah, I guess my only question would be, in
It's more
reading
than
through
that.
the regulations, I didn't see in the regulations that it required 200 feet. Is it in there?
I think it is.
I believe it
I gotta
is.
go back and check the
Okay.
page, yeah. I mean, really, the only spot that it would even matter is in the back.
Yeah.
The side, if that wetland's 10 feet or 500 feet deep,
Right.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The only spot that I'm just kind of like that hooking back concept, which is why you brought up,
Over here on the side. Yeah.
wetland sticks into the property more at that point. The buffer really sticks, when you make that one.
Well, the buffer is more than the 100 foot
Correct.
is, you know, quite a considerable
Yeah.
way into the property, like 2/3 of the way.
So I did walk the property prior to the 15th. Yeah, I think there's a slight grade difference on either side of the rock wall, Laura, to answer your question, like why does it follow that line? I think there's a wall there and there's a little bit more, you know, they got a little more elevation. I did not do auger drilling and all that stuff to see the hydrology in that area. I think that would be important as far as assessing that. The only spot that to me was a little bit unusual was that A1 to A2 right at the beginning. I probably would have put those in a little bit of a different position, but again, I didn't do augering, so it's,
So you're just doing visual on
yeah,
plans?
just, I get, I don't.
You didn't do
know,
soils?
I don't do soils typically. That's why the third party comes in. It's kind of an unbiased third party review of it. But I kind of go out and off and just gonna assess,
Just
like,
kind of
big
a
picture.
quick
Yeah,
assessment.
I mean, just based on the A1 to A2, you know, it's the same elevation sticking out a little bit more. Again, there's no, it's all lawn there, so it's really not plant community. It would just be based on borings. And if someone did dug some holes there, you know, it's very possible that that is exactly correct. But just from a real quick and dirty, it seemed a little bit like I would have moved it out like a foot just based on the slopes and the stained soils. And that was prior to the 15th that I did my review.
So it is interesting that that's kind of a little bit of a low spot there, and yet it's only seeping over into that corner.
And to answer your question about typically wetlands don't go in straight lines, in that spot you would think it would follow the topo. So that A1 to A2, at least that topo, that like if you go to like to the inch versus the foot, which this foot or 2 feet, you would expect A1 to A2 to kind of follow that topo line a little more, given there's really nothing else
They,
there.
they only go in straight lines if there's been, you know, man-made
Which
intervention
the
that
rock
has
wall kind of
modified.
makes
Right.
sense. So the rock wall, I think, is fairly reasonable. Again, I didn't dig the soils. So it's all lawn, to be honest with you. It's mowed relatively up to that. But that-
So what is the elevation difference between their side of the rock wall and the other side?
Not much. I'm just trying to figure out why
What?
it's such a straight line. I have a feeling it's a few inches, but it's not. It's
Oh.
not feet.
That's interesting.
So again, I would, you know, it would be interesting to drill some holes on this side of the wall just to see what's
So is it
going on.
all lawn?
Some lawn. It depends
their
where
side?
you are. The lawn goes pretty close. Other spots
need
is
a
some
sense
tree
of
and
it.
vegetation.
You need a sense of the topography on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
It looks like everything must be kind of draining towards
Yeah,
the
see, I mean,
wall.
that-
That's exactly what's going on. The topography drains off, there's a high spot here, this drains off in this direction, and then actually starts turning the corner and starts running down in this direction.
I mean, that's why it's so important to have this data like right off site, so you get an idea of, you know, hydrology, what's going on, as opposed to just the little box.
And also,
Especially if you're
looking
not
at
on the
this,
site.
this could be a 20-acre wetland out here,
Yeah, you,
or it could be a swale
right.
running along the side of it. It's impossible to say.
And that's fine, we can add that additional information to the plan.
So I think the bigger issue now is just the timeline as far as, you know, we can't really have our third party go out there right now
No,
till spring.
no.
And
But you can set it up. To
we
do
can
that.
set it up. Sure, we can vote
Sure.
everything. And normally we vote to approve once we get the report back. We don't, doesn't make any sense to do it ahead of time, obviously. It's a waste of money at that point.
And if we had that information off-site, we could potentially just go with Steve's eyeball of the site, but I don't feel comfortable doing that if we don't have any
No, I
more
mean, especially
information.
at this point, he didn't formally set out to actually delineate. He went out and kind of did
Right,
an agent
exactly,
kind of
an
quick
eyeball.
site walk of, okay, what are we talking about here?
And I could-
That's a
Exactly.
different type of assessment versus someone going on a scientific mission here to like dig and look at hydric soils and
Yeah.
actually document everything you looked at and look at those lines. That's a different task. Just as we would go out and do a site walk, you know, on a Saturday or after work, you know, we're not actually doing that delineation. We might have the
Right.
delineation plan in front of us and say, this, you know, this site flag matches up with this one, et cetera. It's a different activity. So I think, you know, we need that additional information on the plan. And I'd entertain a motion for a third party. And do we even have any dates?
We do. May
in
18th.
April? May, I was gonna say, we start April 15th, I believe, isn't it?
So we have April 27th or May 18th. So you could always shoot for April 27th, but it's a little tight. That's a week and a few days for her to get it done and get the review done. You
Right.
can always aim for that. If it's done, great. If not, we'll continue it to the May meeting.
It shouldn't take her very long.
But it's a
Again,
busy, it's a
actually-
busy season, everyone's gonna, you know.
That's
Yeah.
true, but if we
Yeah.
book
But we-
her now,
Get on the schedule early.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd shoot for the April 27th.
we could always continue to May if she couldn't get it done.
Correct.
All right.
So I'd entertain a motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion regarding 99 Central Street to set up a third-party review with, is that BCS?
BSC.
Or BS?
BFC, yeah.
For April 27th? We're
Well,
gonna
it's
shoot
just,
for?
No, no,
it's
no.
just post, it's when the season opens up. You don't have to mention the date.
Oh, okay.
That's more for the continuation.
And that we have, as possible, have the 200-foot extension
Right,
on the property.
delineation,
Delineation, right.
200 feet off property, if possible. And is there a second?
Second.
We have a second motion, it's been seconded to hire a third-party review, BSC, to review the property at 99 Central Street for post April 15th, and also to have the applicant do a delineation 200 feet off the property if possible. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, all abstaining. And I will open this up to public comment. If anyone out there wants to make a comment or on 99 Central Street, you may identify yourself and speak.
I would like to make a comment.
Sure.
My name is Randy Sabino, and I was under the understanding that it was only going to a third party in the event that it was a sizable project. You know what I mean? A lot of wetlands, or, you know, I was under the understanding it didn't just rubber stamp to a third party, which adds additional cost. And, you know, the wetland is very, very clear. It's a lower stream that somebody has actually, looks like, just made an impression in the ground right along the opposite side of the wall. And then in addition to that, we have relatively new subdivision to the, is that the east or, I don't know,
South.
to the south of it? Thank you.
Yes.
But to the south of it, that we must have all of that factual information as well, that, you know what I mean? There must be something here that we can look at with, in
Yeah.
regards to, you know, what's over there. Is that right, Steve?
On,
or not?
on that one, similar to your project, they just captured the line closest to them. They didn't capture the other side because it wasn't relevant, just like you're not showing their side of the line. So we do have good data on the other side, just not on this side. So,
But I just ask if we have to have a third party where it's so kind of pretty clear that the wetland is isolated to that very small spot. I don't even see a lot of vegetation going either way. It's just, and you know, of course, this summer, there's been absolutely no water. I do only see water sometimes in the early spring, sometimes, you know, in the fall, but I just ask about the
Well,
third party.
It's really, it's up to the commission if it wants to or not, so I mean, it's kind of a commission vote, everyone heard, if the commission still wants to do that, regardless of who does it, it has to take place post April 15th, because that's the startup date of our delineation, so Steve can't now go out and do it. If we've given marching orders to go do it now, he can't do it now either, so regardless of who does it, whether he does it or we hire someone, it has to be post April 15th, that's our startup.
I see.
Because, you know, too often we get requests to do delineations in January, in
Right.
February, and there's 3 feet of snow on the ground, and then
No,
people
that's
are,
understandable.
people are digging in the snow saying like, yeah, that's a twig, that's a blueberry bush,
Yeah.
really? So we set this wintertime date where we just don't do it, when we can go out and look at properties, but we won't do the delineation
I
flagging.
understand the vegetation and all that. Shame on us for not knowing that in the timeframe.
Steve, is this the sort of thing that you think you could delineate that small wetland, or do you feel like?
I'm not comfortable, because this, when you start getting to, I'm more of a visual wetland delineator. You know, vegetation is easy, and that's typically my quick and dirty read on the wetlands. This is way more soils. This is, because a lot of it's disturbed soil, you know, mowed lawns. It's not something that I would be comfortable, you know, telling you where it is to the inch. or having a discussion with a, you know, a wetland scientist that does soils all day, every day. So I would not be comfortable.
I mean, that kind of,
Yeah, that is understandable. If that's the case, then I certainly
I mean,
understand.
you know, based on the size, it may not cost all that much to do that. I mean, again, if it's a relatively small area.
Certainly.
I think we have another one coming up after this meeting, after this hearing, that's an equally small one that I think, you know, the precedence has been set historically that we send these out for third party. If the third party review can come up and do them both in the same day, we can kind of double up on travel and probably keep the cost down, and I can actually ask her to bid them together as such, so that we
That would be
keep
good.
it down.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
appreciate that.
That
very
Because
would
if
be good.
they're here, you know, we're trying to be as efficient as possible, have them, you know, especially, you know, in town doing a project, do them all the same.
much. Truly appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't want to cause you extra heartache and cost, but sometimes
Yeah,
we
we've,
need to
we've
know.
actually been burned in the past, again, from doing, getting burned about, actually having these done by professionals in the wintertime with snow and ice, and then it melts. We find out there's like a vernal pool right in the middle of the property that the professional missed, you know, because literally, you go out with hip waders in this deep snow, and they're trying to ask us to do these things, and it's
No,
it's
that's,
just major mistakes get made. So we developed these rules quite a few years ago, just to, you know, be safe all around.
Sorry, I'm sure you didn't expect to have to wait 5 months.
I didn't.
Or
I was
more.
hoping we could do our permitting.
Very
too.
sorry.
That's okay. That's our.
Should we continue it to April and then,
Yeah, the
with
earliest,
the
the
hope
earliest
that it
date.
would be done before?
And I can
Um,
try to get her out there like the
yeah.
15th, 16th.
Yeah, I mean, the sooner you book it with, you know, they can get out there as soon as the season starts and then
Okay.
get the report done.
Okay. What
And
was
then the
date?
process is pretty quick after that. We have the information and it's, you
It's
know,
done.
it can be done with, in the
Okay.
one hearing.
Thank you.
April 27th.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to,
Before we get to that, my only
Yeah.
question is with regards to the plan with the additional information.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, probably what we will do, because I think it'll be accurate enough, is just use the aerial maps and
Yeah,
the
that's-
GIS maps
That's fine.
to show the additional data, and
Yeah,
we'll
because
submit that plan
we're-
sooner than later, so that
that's,
Steve
the
will
sooner,
have
the
it.
sooner the possible, I mean,
Yep.
communicate with Steve, you know, and we're not gonna accept lines off the property,
Right,
so.
you're not gonna approve them
We,
anyway.
exactly, so we want this just as a, you know, informational,
Visual, just exactly
right, what's
what you're
going
talking
on with
about.
the
And you
topography.
put a
the-
note, you know,
Yep,
based on
exactly.
USGS, not field investigation.
So, you know, as I always tell applicants, you know, just don't wait till the hearing to show up and say, that's not what we want. Communicate with the agent, that way you know ahead of time what's going on, and by the time
Plus,
the
that way
hearing,
Steve will have that plan, so when
Right.
he deals with the consultant, he can give her that plan.
so everything goes very smooth once you come in, and we know what's going on, the agent knows what's going on, and it goes much quicker.
Right.
The Mass Electric property, is that developed at all, or is, what is the
That's
current
just,
use?
the rail trail is back there.
It's just, oh, so it doesn't really show the width of it here?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, I
Power
see.
lines, the power lines are there in the.
So there is property on the other side, okay.
my other question is that stretch of the rail trail is often very, very, very wet. And I don't know if you are up where it is very wet. And so that's another area
Well,
of
that
interest
section,
back
actually
there.
back here, the trail is elevated.
Yeah,
you
there's
see
an
it-
elevated
you
bed
see it's
there.
The
elevated.
trail's actually a lot higher than this
Okay.
property.
And the other side as well, because
drops
that's
back
within
down.
the 200 feet.
Although, you know,
I mean,
who
we've-
knows when it was built, a lot of these things were, the elevated was actually fill,
Right.
because they
Oh,
used to
yeah.
love to build these things through
Definitely.
swamps.
That's
Yep.
10 feet,
Oh, yeah, there's
it's
no
10
doubt
feet
about
high.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it was considered, you know, wasteland back in the 1800s when they put these things in, so.
It's not an
They
esker.
created a couple of basins all the way along there with this, yeah.
Yeah, when Mary Rimmer went out and delineated this, she made sure, you know, her big thing was, you know, get the wetlands so that any other 100-foot buffer, so to your point, if there was a wetland back in here that cast this buffer out into here, she would have delineated that.
Okay,
So what we will do is,
Okay.
we'll add the additional
Yep.
information to this plan.
okay.
Yeah, my family's owned the property since the 60s, and there's never been any standing water through all the 100-year storms we've experienced and stuff on the property. That's been visual.
How about the 1,000-year storm?
I don't know about that.
No, the Mother's Day flood.
No, there was not,
Really, that's cool. Good.
because we actually went and looked.
So that property abuts that new little development that was built right
That's
next to the area that Park and Rec's has to access to the rail trail.
That's right, yeah.
Well, it doesn't directly abut it, but it's just.
Yeah,
one
the only
lot
thing
over.
separating is that swath of land that Georgetown owns that you recognized as a
Hmm.
beginning of a parking lot there. That
That's
looks like
right.
they're gonna extend or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was supposed to be one of a number of little parking lots just to access to that.
yeah. Wonder what happened. Anyway, can we continue now?
Yes, you can.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we continue 99 Central Street, GCC 2016-17 TEP 16108, the ANRAD 2, our meeting on April, did you say 17th?
27th.
27th, sorry.
Second.
we have a motion, and it's been seconded to continue the ANRAD for 99 Central Street to April 27th. At what time was that?
Oh, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Have a nice night.
You too.
All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. It being on or after 7:10, I'm going to open up a new notice of intent for Tenny Street Lot 1, GCC 2016-18. This construction of a 4-bedroom dwelling. And of course, show driveway and utilities, associated grading within the buffer and freshwater wetlands. If I could have the applicant and or consultant, and if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Gregory Bernard. I'm here to represent the Tompkins Desjardins Trust.
And do we have any green cards? Or you got them? Okay, thank you.
Gregory Bernard, representing the Tompkins Desjardins Trust, the owners of this property on Tenny Street. And to give you an idea where it is, I have a feeling there may be some that don't know where it is. This is a proposal to break off a 2.5 acre single-family lot out of a 100 acre piece that runs, fronts on Tenny Street. This is approximately across the street from the mosquito control people and the T Ford building on Tenny Street, east of 95. And 100 acres runs out back to the Raleigh-Georgetown town line and Long Hill, up by where the Georgetown Water Department has a tower. This is located at the end of their Tenny Street frontage. There's an existing house where the Reardons live at 131 Tenny Street. And again, it's a 2.5 acre piece that they're looking into breaking off from the greater than 100 acre piece. It's also in the area of the power lines, if you can picture where the power lines run across Tenny Street. Power lines run across the property here, the power line easement runs all the way across Long Hill Road in Rowley, which is a dirt road, and all the way out to the Mill River.
Is this chapter 61 land?
This is chapter 61 land, yes, sir. The Tompkins family has owned this property for more than 50 years, and it's been in the chapter 61.
And just for the edification of the commission, if you could just explain chapter 61 land.
Well, I can explain it to the best that I know it, which isn't a whole heck of a lot, but it's in forestry land, which gives the owner a tax break on the property. And when they want to remove a piece from chapter 61 land, they have to offer the town right of first refusal. And if they do take it out of 61 and put it into another use, then they are also liable for back taxes. I think right now it's going back 5 years.
Sorry.
And have you offered it to the town or not?
There is no purchase and sales, so they are not required to offer it to the town at this time until there is intent to sell, and they would have to come up with a purchase and sales.
So they're just delineating the wetlands to see what
Actually, no, they're doing an
land they
NOI.
have
This is-
available.
I'm sorry, the wetlands have been delineated.
This is a notice of intent to construct a
Guys,
Why does it
four-bedroom
say
house.
here? It says an ANRAD. Oh, I'm looking
look
at the
wrong
wrong
one.
Oh, yeah,
one.
4-bedroom dwelling.
Terribly sorry.
The wetlands were delineated by Bill Manuel. The house the proposed house and the septic system are outside the jurisdiction. Proposed house, proposed septic system. There is a bordering vegetated wetland to the west of the property. Goes partially across the power lines and goes back away from the proposed project.
When was the delineation done, sir?
Delineation was done in August.
This August,
Yes.
very dry August.
Was it done with soils?
It was done with soils and vegetation.
Okay.
The trickiest part of the site is there's an isolated wetland in the middle of the lot. And within that, which I'll shade in green, is what I've called a potential vernal pool. And I know the town has a 100-foot buffer zone around the vernal pool. I call it a potential vernal pool because since it was not a typical season, it dried up sooner than you might think. But attached with the notice of intent are photographs taken of that in March, April, and May, or March, April, and June, I forget which now. This delineation is based on the March photograph, which was flagged, and I've got the pink flags in all the photographs circled. March was considered a normal groundwater month for this region.
So our regulations presume it would be a vernal pool unless determined otherwise.
That's how I'm gonna handle it. I'm gonna presume it's a vernal pool, so we're gonna stay more than 100 feet away from the proposed driveway. And it's just the proposed driveway, the associated utilities that are gonna come down the driveway, and the grading for the driveway.
So that whole thing is gonna be a driveway. How long is that thing?
It's roughly 400 feet.
It's as long as some roads.
Well, that's what happens when you have a vernal pool in the middle of the property. We had to go around it. The house has to be back that far to be away from the resource. I met with Steve on or about September 20th on a pre-file meeting showing him the plan or our proposed plan. He brought up a good point that he thought at that time I was showing the driveway a little too close to the 100-foot, so that if we ran into a tree, that we couldn't move the driveway and we had to cut the tree, and the tree happened to be in that vernal pool area, we're gonna get either a cease and desist order or we're gonna have a problem. So he
Right, you have to
suggested,
refile and do the whole thing again.
so we suggested if we could move everything, the driveway, 5 feet farther away, to go ahead and do that, which we did do. We reconfigured the lot lines, moved the driveway an additional 5 feet. The driveway itself is roughly 107 feet from the edge of the vernal pool. It is outside the 75-foot no build on the vernal pool side,
Mhm.
and outside the 75-foot no build on the BBW side.
Wow, you really were able to squeak it in
Hmm.
between those,
Yeah,
two meeting areas.
thread
Wow.
the needle.
Well,
Yeah.
if we couldn't have, we would have had to come in and ask for a variance.
Right.
Which, if we
So,
couldn't fit it, we would have come in and
Kind
asked for a
of
variance.
going back to our previous discussion about right of refusal, is the intent of the applicant after you get an NOI to offer it to the town, just to close that loop, or is,
I'm sorry, can you ask that question one more time?
well, under the first right of refusal,
Yeah.
since it hasn't been offered yet, are you going to wait till after this is, notice of intent is completed to make that
Yes.
process? I just want to be clear on that.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I actually, we've had a, kind of, we agree to disagree. The language, as I read it, says, any intent to change the use. To me, this is intent, and as I believe it should be offered to the town at this point, the applicant's attorney disagrees with me. We're still,
Well, I would say
I'm
this-
still trying to get some opinion, some legal opinion on that.
This is a permitting process, so I mean, this is, it looks
How
like
much-
an intent to change the use to me.
So again, right now, we're agreeing to disagree.
I
You know,
call
this
it
is
like I
not gonna
see
get
'em.
closed out tonight, so, you know, we have some time to
Right.
work on that, but.
I
again,
just want to make sure that that process is addressed, and it doesn't come up at the end, oh, we forgot to do this, or
One of-
it never
Yeah,
happened.
one of the jokes is, you know, oh, when the house is built, they'll offer the, you know.
Gee,
the
we've
first
seen
bit.
that
So-
happen before.
So I think, I read it as intent, a notice of intent is an intent. I mean, this is as much of an intent as
That's
you
why
can
they
get.
call it a notice of intent.
The other thing I wanna
Excuse me, and I'm glad you said it that way, because a notice of intent and an intent to sell are different.
no, change of use, not sell, change, it's a change of use.
Use of the
Until,
land.
until there is a purchase and sales agreement, there may not be a change of use.
Yeah.
This
So I-
could, there could be a house built here without it being taken out of chapter 61. There are conditions when that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Sold to a family member.
Has to be to a family member, right, as I recall.
Stays as part of, like, the farm.
Stays part of a business, it could be
Right,
part of a business, it's,
That's a separate example. You're right.
So again, we're agreeing to disagree.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how you can disagree. It's in the law that when it's offered to the town, it has to be accompanied with a purchase and sales agreement.
Yeah. So I talked to the assessors who are the kind of town department that handles this, and they agree with my interpretation of it. So again,
That it needs to be offered to the
Correct.
town.
I
They-
just,
they-
I
they
just
feel
want it
it should be
addressed.
getting it right now.
I want it addressed, because I don't want it,
Okay, so that's the question.
come up sometime in the future that it wasn't addressed or wasn't addressed properly, so that's really why I'm bringing it up.
the other thing I wanted to comment on is, the comment was made that this is the only spot that the house can go in. I think this is a 100+ acre property. They're cutting the property lines, they're creating this very tight configuration. If you look towards the power lines, all of that open land is owned by the same owner. They just put a property line where they did, so that it cuts it off from the bigger piece. Keep in mind, this is 100+ acres. I did walk the property pre the 15th, just to get a sense for the wetlands and some of the land. I'm concerned, this is so tight in there. The comment was made, well, if it wasn't that buffer, they'd be requesting a waiver. Technically, if waivers are needed, they could put it out closer to the road and no waivers would be required. So I think there's some discussion that can go along with that. And in that point, it's so tight, I think it's important to really understand exactly where the wetlands are. There was kind of a funny channel connecting the wetland to the vernal pool. I could see during heavy water flow, there's some connectivity.
So has this lot actually already been separated off from the bigger parcel, or?
No.
No, it has not, so it's still technically like one big thing.
Yes.
And so if you kind of look at that property line, it hugs the driveway to leave as much of the other parcel, the whole larger parcel to, as whole. Again, if waivers are needed, the commission could say, well, why can't you just bring it up closer to the road where no waivers would be needed? Given you have 100+ acres to play with, why squish it in here? It's so tight, 5 feet would mean they need waivers. And I think it's important to really nail down exactly where these resources are. And again, that connectivity just might be a seasonal little flow. I didn't do soils, but that would be kind of a stretch that I'd want someone to focus on as far as connecting those two resources to see what's actually in there.
And that's fine, because, soils have been done in that area. I saw
And
the
it's
same
probably
thing you
fine.
see.
Yeah, yeah. And it's probably
Third
fine.
party's gonna look there.
Yep.
And that's fine. My wetland delineator has, no problem defending it.
Where is the property line? Can you show me?
There's a stone wall running this whole side.
Yep.
And then he wants to have the lot line come in here.
Oh, so they're delineating tightly with, that's the proposed delineation for
That
this
piece is
lot.
proposed, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry,
Property line.
yeah,
Probably,
uh-huh.
So when I said it's really, really tight, it's self-imposed really, really tight.
Yeah, it is.
Now, it might work
It's not
fine if it,
pre-existing.
Correct.
Is that still their land south of there?
Yes.
Down below there?
Is this the property we
Is
approved
it going
the
uphill or
forestry cutting?
downhill? I'm sorry, I can't
Going
see
down.
the elevations from
When
here.
you're on the property, it seems very level in this area.
Mhm.
In the power lines, there's a large hill. There's a large hill over here. There's a large hill over here. Slopes down to the BVW.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I know you asked the other applicant about the 200 feet around the area. I don't know, does the commission have copies of the plan? There's two sheets of the
No,
plan, and
haven't
on sheet
opened
2 there's
mine.
an aerial photograph. If not, I can use that.
That's the previous one.
photograph that shows an outline in purple of the property.
Yep.
And you can see shaded in yellow, the 2.5 acre piece that they're proposing
Oh,
to
here.
cut out. And in blue is the wetlands on the property. It's an extensive wetland on the property. It's part of Hawk Meadow.
Oh, okay, so that's all wetland, yep.
Have is this the,
Cut plan.
pardon?
The one
Cut
we did
plan,
the-
we did a forestry
Right,
cut
we
plan,
did the-
We
RDA.
did, so I've
You walked it.
actually,
You
I've
walked
walked
it.
this, right, it is
Probably
a
five-
lot of wetlands out
4 or
there.
5 years ago, they had an RDA to
Yeah.
do a cut plan, and I think you and
Yep.
Lilibet
Hello.
walked.
Spent
It wasn't that long ago.
Three.
4 hours,
Yeah.
4 hours tromping along there, around in there.
So this is another one, in my opinion, we probably should, again, utilize a third party to do an assessment. And, let's see. And while we're looking at the plans, I will open it up to abutter comments. Are there any abutters to Tenny Street Lot 1?
Okay, so this is Tenny
If
Street.
you would like to
comes
speak, you could
along
identify yourself for the record.
like that,
Seeing none?
Right in here, right?
back in here.
Sure.
Yeah, back in here somewhere. That's where the house is going, back
Yeah.
in here, sort of,
Yeah.
sorta.
Yeah, sort of, yep.
Okay.
Something like that. That vernal pool that I'm showing.
Just trying to help.
Yep, mm-hmm.
Now, the septic you're showing is well outside of any
Yes.
jurisdiction. Do you have approval? Have you brought this to the Board of Health yet, or not?
No, I've not brought it to the Board of Health. I figured the Conservation Commission should be my first stop.
Okay.
I'd like to address a comment that was made about how tight it is. It's not tight here, where the driveway is near the vernal pool, because, yeah, the driveway could be moved farther away from the resource area. There's no question about that. But it can't be moved left or right here.
Right.
So that's the property line, I mean, that has to stay. This property line is really not that much of a factor. Yes, it is tight, but it could be moved. But we're outside the jurisdiction pending third party. But it's really this area, and any other place to access that property would require the waiver.
Is that the best place for the house? I mean, the house can go, it doesn't, can it go over here, less intrusive into the wetlands?
Well,
Instead of going,
Well,
the
technically,
house itself is not intrusive, it's the access to the house.
well, that's what I'm saying, if the
Right.
house was positioned closer to Tenny
The road.
Street.
It would have to be over here.
Yeah, somewhere in that area, wouldn't that make more sense? Less cost, if nothing else, I would think.
Now that's basically making this portion, which is outside all unbuildable. It's not it would virtually be inaccessible.
I don't understand.
If I couldn't put a house here,
If you
This
couldn't
would
put
be
the
inaccessible.
driveway through there,
it's the drive, yeah.
it would be
There's
inaccessible.
no access.
It-
But that doesn't mean
Right.
it has no use, it still has a forestry use.
Yeah,
Yes, it does.
exactly, yeah. So is that any consideration at all to having a house located?
That would have to be discussed with the owner of the property.
That's where
The
they
owner of the
want
property
it.
would like to have a house back there.
Yeah.
Well, I understand, I'm just throwing that out as a
Sure.
thought to help
Well, that's all, I mean,
mitigate that
sure.
intrusion, but.
I mean, often I think the regs, I wish I brought a copy of the regs. The regs pretty much have some references to, if you can stay outside of the Concom's jurisdiction, they
Please do.
encourage you to do that.
Please
Well,
do.
Obviously, a
obviously.
waiverless plan is a degree below that, but, so to your comment, the regs suggest if you can, it's really, really nice to.
especially if it's possible.
this isn't getting closed out tonight. I have a bunch of other things I need to research and answer, so it's just more bringing up to your point. It's encouraged, whatever.
We're not proposing a house in the buffer zone. We're not proposing a septic system in the buffer zone.
Well, again, let's take one step at a time. I think the first thing to do is to do the third party, get that report, then we can have the discussion of, if the line's correct, and then, take it from there, for the future steps.
It will be impervious material, though.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. As part of the driveway design, there is a stone infiltration trench on the vernal pool side of the driveway. And that is designed to catch all the runoff of the driveway, store it through the stone trench, which is gonna be about 400 feet, and recharge it into the groundwater, it going to the direction of the vernal pool. And those calculations, HydroCAD calculations, ground and stormwater calculations are all part of the notice of intent, and they're included in the packets. So we are intending to collect all the runoff from the driveway.
I'm just addressing the fact that you said that there was no house, no anything, but this is an impervious surface.
Yep,
which
no
is-
question, and to mitigate that, what we wanna do is recharge the groundwater, as opposed to just let it run off.
So do we need a third party on this, Steve?
I think that's what Carl referenced.
Right, I'm
We've
sorry.
got a,
I
yeah,
didn't-
we've got,
wasn't
we've got a vernal pool. We wanna
Uh-huh.
lock that down.
Yeah, and we have two potentially overlapping resource areas, so we really need to know what's going on in there. As you said, there's wiggle room here, but this area and the vernal pool are,
Well, what I'm saying is, it's not only is there wiggle room, no matter what we do down here, doesn't change the fact that this
Exactly.
is the tightest spot.
that's right.
So changing the lot lines and moving the driveway down here is not
Well-
the big nut. The big nut is down here.
That's what I was
It's
just
tight
saying.
because of the line we've drawn in the sand for the lot line, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is.
Yes, but I could change that part of the lot line to my heart's content. Doesn't change the fact I'm outside the jurisdiction of the vernal
Right.
pool, but this is not gonna change, no matter what I do for a lot line down.
Correct.
down
Yeah,
there.
based on
And
your
that's
distance.
why we need to focus here to find out what's happening with those abutting resource areas. So, again, shall we ask BCS to,
BSC?
BSC, why do we keep calling it the wrong thing? BSC to, delineate that come the spring?
Yep.
Okay.
Makes
Mr.
sense, especially,
Chairman.
again, we can tie this in with the other one, have it done the same day.
Lovely. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we engage BSC to conduct a third-party review of the wetland line at
Tenny
Tenny
Street.
Street, Lot 1, GCC 2016-18 DEP 16108.
Second.
There's a motion, it's been seconded to hire BSC to conduct a third-party review of Tenny Street Lot 1, GCC 2016-18. Is there any further discussion? And that would be to engage them post-April 15th.
Yes.
Could I ask a question based on that date? Since your vernal pool definition is predicated on the spring, and the spring's in March, which is when I started logging the location of the vernal pool, or at least the elevation of the water. I'd like to continue that, even though it's before April 15th.
And I can do that and
Submit that.
concur with you,
Okay.
yeah.
Lovely. So, okay.
So let me get this, you want to continue the
We're gonna
meeting?
continue monitoring
Oh, yeah.
the height of the water in the vernal pool.
Yeah, no problem.
Before April 15th.
Yeah, no problem. I just was a little confused about whether we were continuing the meeting to then, or,
I'm hoping to continue to April 27th.
right, okay. So we have a motion, I think it's been seconded, to,
Yes.
to again, hire BSC to do that third-party review post-April 15th. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, all abstaining, motion carries. And now we need a continuation. And that should be fairly close to that
The 27th.
27th, if we could.
27th at 7:50.
Do we want to enunciate any other information we need before then?
As far as on the site plan?
Or anything like the question about chapter
61,
sixty-one.
I mean, I'm working on
cetera.
that, just aside from, that doesn't need to be an
Okay.
open hearing, that's just me.
And hopefully that certainly can be resolved or fleshed out completely by that time, you know, April 15th, we should, or
Yeah,
April 27th,
that's
we should
enough
know
time.
that,
Okay,
where we're
And
going
I
with
just
that.
wanna reiterate that that property cannot be sold until it's offered to the town, and the selectmen say yea and nay.
But
Okay.
offered with the house versus offered
No,
sans.
no, they wouldn't, the house wouldn't be built. It's
Oh.
before, no building permit can be issued
Got it, okay.
without all that happening. I think the question is, when is a trigger point? When is the notice? And that's the part that we, yes, sir, thank you.
And,
we're still discussing.
in a sense, it's moot because it has to be done. You know, you can, semantics say it's done now or done later, the end result potentially is the same.
No.
It actually
could
if-
del-
if-
it could delay their
If
process
it's
though,
worth more
too.
with a house on it,
Yeah,
No, they can't build a house.
No, but we can get an order of conditions.
exactly,
That's all, that's all we're looking for, is an
That's
order of
what I
conditions.
was saying.
that's the no.
the other thing is,
Okay.
it could almost be a disadvantage, because if they wait till, like, per your argument, if you do it later, they have to wait a certain time frame to kind of run the
Well,
process through.
I know why they wanna
There's
do it
pluses
this
and
way.
minuses.
They, because basically if the land with permits is worth more money.
Of course.
Yes, exactly. So anyway,
So
Mr.
continue
Chairman,
to April 27th.
shall we
Motion.
Mr. Chairman, let's do continue. Penny Street, lot number 1, GCC 2016-18, DEP 161082, April 27th at
7:15.
7:15.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion to continue the notice of intent for Tenny Street Lot 1 to April 27th at 7:15.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Carl, West Street's looking to continue, but if we can just open it in case there are any butters here, just so we can get that one.
Okay, it being on or after 7:15, I'm going to open the notice of intent for 47 West Street, DEP 1610826, construction of a 16-unit senior family housing development with associated grading, roadways, septic system, utilities, stormwater management, etc. And I believe we've been asked by the applicant to continue. And
The only update I have is that we have started the third-party review, and we're also still,
well, we still have to
Discuss.
resolve that issue, whether
Yeah.
the local bylaw applies or not. I'd just like to
That's-
get that
and
formal.
it's another one of those where agreeing to disagree, and working through
I mean, I
that.
understand a normal 40B, it doesn't necessarily, but this specific case, maybe, I don't know, maybe a little different.
So we're working through those, so, the wetland review has been started. Problem is that it didn't get finished before the 15th. Our reviewer noticed a few wetlands that were not flagged properly, and it's a very complicated site, given it's disturbed and it's heavily compacted. So she's thinking some, test pits to evaluate groundwater would be helpful in the review. So, again, they're looking to continue it to next month, October 20th. My recommendation is that it really should be continued to the spring so it can be reevaluated, but given they asked for a continuation and they're not here to discuss it, my
Well,
recommendation is to give it to October, and then we can.
It's really up to the
revisit it.
commission. If the commission wants to continue it to April, they can do that if it
Correct.
wants.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just kind of giving the sides to what's going on.
Can I ask a question about what, the third-party review? I'm wondering about the stormwater runoff down West Street heading into that site.
So that's the engineering review.
Okay,
We're dual reviews. The engineering one is, I believe, almost done. The wetland one is kind of on hold until we can refine things.
super. And I do remember that there was runoff behind West Street
Correct.
too.
Correct.
And we saw evidence of that when we were
Right.
out looking at
Intermittent-
another project.
intermittent
An
So-
intermittent
Yeah.
street,
This-
So they-
heading straight downhill.
Right, except this
Into
was
that
this was a
development.
tough year to do it because of obviously the.
Couldn't
drought.
tell.
Actu-
it was dry.
Totally,
So
but
we-
I'm
yeah.
concerned about
Yeah.
that stormwater. I'm concerned about that amount of runoff.
Yeah.
Given what we know about the site and what abutters have told us about how much water comes down that road. And they've plonked houses right in the direct path
So
of
we,
that.
so we will be looking at that, is the short answer. The other part of it is, they did request continuation, they're not here. We should probably hold off on significant discussions and concerns
So,
till they
yeah,
are
really,
here.
really, we should.
just
be
wanted to
dis-
give
That's
an
just
update.
something I'd like us to
Oh,
look at.
I understand.
I'm concerned about those
The,
things.
the engineer will look at that, and I'll call attention to it, since you brought it up.
Who's the town, is it who's doing the engineering?
ESC group,
review?
they have.
Oh, BSC's
yeah.
doing the engineering review?
They're both,
Yeah.
they're doing the wetland review and the engineering.
I mean, a lot of it, the drainage issue is just that the road when it was built just doesn't have a adequate drainage system.
Correct, there's no
Right.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yep. So I will bring that up to them, to make them, have them kind of pay particular attention to it, so we're looking at just continuing the hearing.
Any abutters to
Can I also
47
ask-
West Street? No abutters.
I mean, that's something the planning board would be looking at as well, right?
No, they're not involved, because it's a 40B.
Oh.
It's just us.
Is it
We're the only-
really, where are we with the 40B question?
It's a legal question, I'm working on it.
It's
Okay.
really,
And I'm not a
lovely.
lawyer.
it's really a town council question.
I
That we need to get feedback from them.
I was just
Nice.
wondering if we had an answer.
Don't laugh too hard.
From you,
No.
not from
Do
you.
you want my opinion?
Basically.
My opinion is I should file under the local. Their opinion is they
Right.
don't have to, we're agreeing to disagree.
So let's continue this. And the question then is, do we want to continue it to October, or if we feel, do we want to continue it to the spring?
October,
You mean November?
November,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes.
right?
The next meeting is,
I'm getting,
yeah, sorry. Susan left
November.
the today's meeting on, and I'm just looking at the next one.
Oh.
November 17th, I said it
will the
again.
review be done prior?
No, it will not.
There won't
Oh,
be,
then-
nothing will be done.
But
Then
I
what's-
think, you know,
That was my point,
Yeah.
because we won't be able to complete that. It's gonna be another continuation, and we won't be able to resolve that issue till,
The third party,
I'll be honest, in trying to work, I mean, this is a big project that's been going for a long, long time. You know, if we continue it to next month, have a 5-minute discussion like we just did, and maybe bring up some of these other issues. I do believe that potentially the engineering stormwater will be done, so we can start talking
you know
about
how many
that.
continuations I've sat through in like
know.
16 years on this project?
I just think, given they requested a continuation in due time, that I think it's reasonable to give them a month,
Sure.
where they won't have the opportunity for a discussion.
will
just to
they
wait for
come
this.
here? Will they be here?
They will be here, yes.
Maybe we meet the quarter-century mark.
Again, the commission has final say, I'm just giving my 2 cents as I often do.
I really don't have any problem doing it. I mean, it's just,
I don't care.
It's administrative,
See if
I
they-
don't mind doing the extra heavy lifting on my end.
Let's see if they come.
If they don't come next month, then we'll wait till spring.
I was just trying to, I was just trying to cut to the chase, because
Yeah.
we know what's really gonna happen. It's,
Yeah,
because
me too.
we've got that hard date, and it's gonna be the same end result this month as next month.
The other thing that I
Why
think
would
is
they
kind of,
want to come next month? What do they want to do?
I think they could try to make an argument that they did the review and it was fine. I don't know, I'm just, so they're in front of us for the longer continuation request, I think it's good to have someone to say it to. You don't have to- I
Okay.
mean, the other thing that's kind of a benefit to waiting to the spring is we'll resolve the legal questions. So when we hit in the spring and they pick up the review, we can hit the ground running, having an answer to, is it just
Right.
local or a state local question? I hope.
Well,
in
yeah, I mean, if
that
there's
many
still a
months.
delineation issues up in the air, it's gotta get, we can't resolve those till the spring. So if
Right.
you wanna continue the meeting to next month, it's still not gonna get resolved, it's gonna get resolved in the spring. That's just the way it is.
It doesn't change anything, I'm just
No.
Yeah.
adherents of being reasonable.
Even if we aren't.
No, you are reasonable.
I think we've been extremely reasonable in this project, given
Yeah.
the length of time we've been dealing with it, the whole roll,
How long has it been?
16 years.
Oh, good.
Longer than I've been here.
Okay.
So if you agree with that just argument, then it's November 20th at 7:10.
November 20th.
At 7:10.
November 17th, sorry, at 7:10.
All right, Mr. Chairman, let's continue 47 West Street, DEP 1610826 to November 7th, no,
17th,
dang it, November 17th.
At 7:10.
2020.
Second.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for 47 West Street to November 17th at 7:10, 2016. Is there any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, all abstaining. Thank you. And, let's see, being on or after 7:20, we have, let's see,
Parish.
Notice of intent for Parish Road, the bridge at Wheeler Brook. If GCC 2016, if I could have the applicant and or consultant, and if you could identify yourself for the record. And this is a continuation, not
Correct.
new.
It is.
Yeah, it says on my listing, it says new, it's not new.
Good evening, for the record.
Good
My name
evening.
is Joseph Orzel, I'm a senior wetland scientist with Wetlands Preservation.
Yeah, we're running behind to answer your question.
I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Livingstone Development. And as you mentioned, this is a continuation. Just to briefly review what was presented last time. What is being proposed is a culvert to replace the existing damaged bridge on Larkin Road, right at the Georgetown, Newbury town line at Wheeler Brook. The proposal is to replace the bridge with a culvert of the exact same size, maintaining all existing elevations and substrates that are present within the current stream channel. Here we have the existing conditions. You can see culverts in the same exact location. Town line runs right here. A small part of the bridge and the culvert structure is within Georgetown. And there is a small amount of work that would be required within Georgetown to install the culvert. The alterations are minimal. Permanent alterations include about 2 square feet of land underwater in Georgetown and about 3 square feet of BVW within Georgetown.
Now, this was, obviously, I think we already talked about, this was filed, obviously, with the town of Newbury separately for their portion, and this is just
Correct.
this
Was
portion.
filed with Newbury.
And you have received the order from
It has-
Newbury already?
the order has been issued. DEP did issue comments on the Newbury filing. They had some comments on meeting stream crossing standards. We submitted information to DEP and addressed their concerns. We did submit that information with the filing to Georgetown.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard from Georgetown from the DEP on this.
There were no comments, nor, it's under review at this point. Remains under review. I called DEP today to try and check on the status. The reviewer was not available.
Yeah, I did too.
You did too, yeah. However, the DEP was satisfied with the information submitted under the Newbury filing. It's the exact same filing. My understanding at the last meeting essentially was that the remaining issue to be resolved was that have Steve go out and look at some of the new flags that have been put out. And I understand he has looked at that, and I'll let him describe it.
The other thing after we exchanged emails earlier, I checked out the minutes, and there was a reference to you guys submitting another plan, zooming in more on the topography or adding a layer, and it wasn't, the minutes are still in draft, so I didn't have a chance to listen to the video. But I think it was some reference to the layer used to show the topography at that edge was USGS based versus real data, and you had a potential of improving the zooming in on that one spot and being more accurate in submitting a plan with that. And I apologize for not knowing exactly
Yeah,
the
we had,
discussion.
there was a discussion, I think, when the ANRAD was filed for the Georgetown property, 66 Parish Road.
Submitting a plan that defined an area that different.
So the 66 Georgetown Parish Road is this property,
Was I looking at the wrong minutes?
possibly. There was a discussion on that because the initial filing on that had topo that was taken off an old plan,
That might be what it
and
was.
corrections were made to that topo on the ANRAD, and that was submitted.
That's probably what it is. Thank you for the correction.
All right.
I do have a notice about something about using an old soils profile.
Well, that's what I remembered.
Pardon?
That's what I was
Yeah,
reading
there
about.
was-
That's
there
what we were
was-
just talking about, but he thinks it was from a different hearing.
An old
Are you saying it's-
elevation or an old soils?
It was based on.
Okay, this was sorry, this was 66 Parish, not the
You just confirmed
not
what he
the
just
bridge.
said.
Yes, okay. Gosh, they're so close.
They are,
Yeah.
and they're actually
Gosh.
I mean,
interconnected.
Okay,
th-
yeah.
these projects are
Got it.
interconnected. I mean,
I also like
this
he's
is the,
basing this on his memory, and we're reading it.
No, we
I was
still
surprised
can't
you
get it
said
right.
that, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Okay, right, thank you.
So anyways, I think Steve went out and looked at the flags.
Yeah, everything looked reasonable, given the
yeah,
situation.
my only issue at this point is that we haven't heard back from DEP on this yet, but I don't think, I'm not really seeing any specific changes that I wanted to see.
I mean, you guys aren't planning on doing this work till the spring, I presume anyways,
I would presume, there was a comment, I think, last time about
timing it.
avoiding high water.
Yeah, yeah.
That
I'm
could
just
certainly
thinking,
be conditioned to avoid high water. Yeah.
no, that makes sense. I'm just thinking timing as far as what's the harm in waiting a month so I'll be honest, the commission kind of has a precedent that they typically do not until you get some resolution from, some comment or yay, nay from the DEP. Odds are they will. I have no doubt they'll issue no comment. If we can do it next month, we can kind of hold that precedence. If not,
Right.
I think that was Carl's initial concern. And if you're not planning to construct until the spring, and it's almost an administrative, hey, it's paper pushing, you don't have to come next month, as long as the DEP is okay with it, we'll just issue it next month, mail it to you, and move on. It's just one
Yeah,
argument.
I mean, if you prefer to wait, I think it's already been reviewed by DEP.
Yeah.
They're satisfied that the Wetlands Protection Act interests are protected.
When they looked at it for Newberry.
When we get for Newbury, right.
Because last I
It's
talked.
the same.
2 square feet and
Yeah.
3 square
And
feet.
that
So-
reviewer probably didn't look at it
Right,
just
so
for
Right.
Newberry.
essentially, it's, they're the applicant, but actually it's municipal land. I mean, it's really our project in a sense.
Right.
So, I mean, kind of, you know, we should have some level of control over that, I think, you know.
I did talk to Pam, whatever, a week and a half ago, who was the reviewing person, and she said she pretty much hadn't even opened it yet. You know, so she's probably just getting into it last week. Typically the commission holds off on it. Obviously you can do whatever you want moving
Would-
forward.
Would you get in a situation where, the fact that there's that kind of skewed, town line going along the road between the two towns, that the DEP would only comment on the Newburys?
Potentially,
And-
yeah.
But
so-
you don't know that right at this point.
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say if I'm looking at it, it's really hard mentally
Could be
to stop
different,
looking
could be
at
different reviewers, you don't even know.
it.
They
Yeah.
are different reviewers.
So I mean,
Yeah.
so maybe they really, they're really detail oriented. Like, oh, town line, I'm done reviewing.
Well, that's what I was getting at,
You know, but a lot of the administrative stuff, how they fill out the form, the storm,
Oh, yeah,
all that stuff
yeah.
is the same. I'm not worried. I do not
Yeah,
think the
yeah.
DEP is going to issue or huge comments. I'm
No.
just looking at protecting the precedence of holding off 1 month, which is
Does
typically
it
what the commission is.
impact,
They're not constructing till spring, best case scenario. So, I mean, I presume.
well, what you've said is you're just trying to avoid high water.
No,
Well,
there'll be a
that was
condition.
mentioned, that was mentioned at the last meeting by one of the conservation members.
There would be a condition in the final approval saying, don't do this during high water flow. We're coming into high water flow, so they're not constructing. You know, it's kind of a drought time of the year project.
August.
And the intent is to maintain the same, flow capacity for
Yes,
the
it's
culvert.
maintaining all existing conditions. And just to, I mean, if I can briefly review, a lot of the information that was submitted to DEP based on their comment, for their comments, had to do with connectivity, and meeting the stream crossing
Right,
standards.
right.
This site was evaluated last year by North Atlantic Aquatic Connectivity Collaborative, and they found it to be full AOP, full aquatic organism passage. So maintaining the existing conditions will maintain full aquatic organism passage. Again, if the commission is comfortable closing tonight, I would request that. If you really feel you need to wait until you get something from DEP. When I spoke with DEP today, they did mention that, the towns don't have to wait till, DEP comments.
Which is true.
Which is true.
I'm just talking typically the commission doesn't.
Yeah.
You can go either way. I kind of look towards precedence and how the commission's always handled these things. not
So
just-
our 2 square feet,
That's the amount of disturbance
Yeah.
Right.
within that resource area.
exactly.
Well, the amount of
And
permanent
what about the
disturbance.
3 square feet?
There's-
What's in there?
Let me actually,
Temporary
there's more disturbance,
Right.
that's the permanent disturbance. There is more temporary disturbance, which is included
Yeah.
on the other.
But it's an entire watershed, you know, it's a wellhead area, there's a lot of other things going on there too. It's not just in this couple square feet of disturbance, but again, it's a watershed, you've got a pretty large resource there.
Yeah, it is.
So again, to look at that with blinders on and say, it's only 2 square feet, that's the same discussion we just had about other things. You wanna, you hopefully having the DEP look at the big picture of this and,
Which is why we're maintaining all the existing conditions, so that we don't impact change conditions further downstream.
right, exactly. And that's kind of a requirement anyway, that you don't change the characteristics of flow and, you know, flood
So-
everyone out downstream.
Our 2
Or vice
square
versa.
feet is exactly the same as the other 3 corners of the bridge that have been approved by Newbury and also approved by the DEP. You're not doing anything radically different in our 2 square feet
The
that you're
filing that was
doing on
submitted
the
in
other
Newbury
4.
included all the work. It showed work both in Newbury and in Georgetown was for the entire project, not just Newbury work.
Right.
As the filing in Georgetown shows all the work.
But as Steve said, they haven't even opened the file for our side, but.
It might have changed in the past week, but when I actually communicated with Pam, who's reviewing it, at the time, she hadn't even opened it yet. That was a week ago. I presume she's opened it since.
Okay.
She did not get back to me today when I contacted her.
So I'm getting the feeling from you that we should hold and
Or can you approve it subject to that sign off? And if that doesn't happen, then it's
We,
not approved.
we tend not to do that. It's kind of risky.
I mean, in this specific
How do you
case,
pull it back?
you could do this, the applicant wouldn't even have to come in. I mean, since we're
Yeah.
not asking for any changes, it would, it should be
Yeah.
more administrative.
That's typically how we handle it, just more precedence.
okay, sorry, let's do it that way, sorry.
That's fine.
I mean, because, again, the work is, it's not, if they were gonna start, wanted to break ground next month, you know, I could say, well, let's really push
It is
this.
awfully low water at the moment. We're not going to get a lower water impact.
This project,
Time.
this project is not gonna be done
We're not doing it next month, right?
by itself.
Not that I'm aware of.
This project is linked to the other one.
Yes.
This is not gonna be done all by itself.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is it November 17th at 7:05?
Mr.
Me
Chairman,
again.
I move that we continue Parish Larkin Road Bridge at Wheeler Brook until November 17th at 7:05.
05.
And that we are looking for the DEP sign off on this project.
Perfect.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, there's a second to continue this Parish Larkin Road Bridge to November 17th at 7:05. Is there any further discussion? And I'd say, if you don't even have to come in, Steve can contact you ahead of time.
Here
and
anyways.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
it'll be done administratively. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, all abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep on the 2-week deadline, filing that notice of intent, if you're coming in for the other.
Right, it's,
2
I
weeks.
think we checked with you on the filing deadline, it's, I think it was
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
November
Thank you.
2nd, I think so. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, yes. Actually,
Chaplain Hills project, where apparently the builder's not here as representative, can we just close that so we can move on?
We're going in
no-
order, unfortunately. So
Okay.
we have one more hearing, that should go quick.
we'll get to it quickly.
Okay, I didn't know if it was-
No, it's, yeah, we kinda go sequentially.
Not showing, I just wondered if we could end it.
Yeah, you know, if it's on the listing, we have to at least open it, and
Okay.
Do something.
I was just hoping you weren't gonna ask a question for this one we just closed, just continued. Okay, it being on or after 7:25, we have a new notice of intent for 12 Thurlow Street, GCC 2016-19, to install a septic tank and pump chamber associated with grading of a sanitary disposal system within 100 feet of a BBW. But if I could have the applicant and or consultant, and if you could identify yourself, please.
Sure. Good evening, Greg Hockmuth from Williams and Sparagus,
Thank you.
here representing the
And
Muskowitzes.
do you have some cards for us? Green
do.
cards.
sir.
So, I'm sure everybody knows where Thurlow Street is.
Yep.
This is the stretch that is across the street from Tiger Row. There's probably about 10 houses in that little stretch. They have an existing septic system in the back of their yard, which is probably about 30 to 40 feet from the existing BVW that's back here. The system is showing signs of failure. It hasn't officially failed yet, but they're being proactive and upgrading the system. We did soil testing probably about 2 months ago, and it's a challenging lot. There's a lot of ledge outcrops in that area, but where there is soil, it's really, really good. So we had a few restraints and a few hurdles. One of the main restraints was the wetland on the back of the house. Obviously, we tried to get the system as far from that wetland as we could and staying within the parameters of Title V. This location here was not suitable. There's several large rock outcrops there. You can see there's a large ledge outcrop here. So we tested just on the edge of the 100-foot buffer zone, and we got we actually had a third test pit here. Suitable soils, less than 2 minutes per inch, so it was very well drained. The system itself is proposed 100 feet away from the wetlands. But there's no way for us to get the effluent to the new system by gravity because of the topography out there and where the plumbing leaves the house. Right now it leaves through the slab in the basement floor. And it goes out back here. There's a tank under the deck that goes into a leach field back here. So we're proposing a new septic tank that's going to be at least 50 feet from the wetlands.
And that's gonna be located where in there?
Right here, we've got it colored here in this gray color.
Okay.
And then the septic tank would the effluent would flow out of the septic tank into another tank, a 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and then pump up through a force main to a new D-box where it would be discharged into the leaching facility.
Has the Board of Health seen this
Yes. So we were at the Board of Health Monday. We're asking for a local upgrade approval to reduce the separation of groundwater by 1 foot. So instead of 5 feet, we're now 4 feet. And that was done for a couple reasons. To avoid ripping up the driveway and avoid grading within 5 feet of the abutting lot line. And it also saves cost. A foot of sand across the entire system is substantial. But the Board of Health, it was well received. We haven't got the official approval letter from the Board of Health, but they didn't have any issues with the request. We called DEP yesterday because, like a lot of other folks, we didn't have a file number yet. It still said waiting for fee to clear revenue. But we got in touch with the analyst. She reviewed it, issued no comments. The check had cleared 2 weeks ago. They're just a little behind at DEP right now.
Just right now?
Yeah. So we feel like we've done the best we can to get the system as far away from the resource area. I should point out there's a small area here that it's mostly raspberry bushes. It looks like it was an old garden. We're going to have to clear out some of those bushes to get the trucks out back to set the new tanks. Once the tanks are in and the trucks back out, that area will be revegetated. So it's a temporary alteration, but the bulk of the work is with an existing maintained lawn and or landscaped areas.
Now, the existing system, are you going to fill that?
The existing tank will be pumped, filled with sand, and they'll crush a hole in the bottom of it. The existing leaching facility will remain abandoned and in place. But right now I can tell you it is in the water table, which is probably part of the reason why it's lasted as long as it has. It gets a nice clean flush every spring.
The leach field.
Yeah, this is the existing system. I think the house was built in the 50s.
Now, that green line going through the house, that's the 100?
That's the 100. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking at the plan here. There's a drafting error. This is 25 feet from BVW. It's actually 50 feet. So all of the components are at least 50 feet away from the resource area.
What's the date on the plan?
The plan is dated September 30th, 2016.
Thank you.
Yep.
So you're saying there's actually a mistake on the line there? It says 25 when it's actually 50?
Yeah, and it's,
Just more of a
Instead
note,
of
yeah.
50
Doesn't-
feet.
It doesn't change anything, it's just more
No, but
clarification.
really what you should do is basically make a modification and initial it,
Okay.
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
so it's an official.
I'll mark that up and I'll leave you with this one if you want, Steve.
So I don't have any issues with this project as,
Because it's only a typo, it's not really
Thank you.
So overall, this is really an improvement.
very much so.
This
Yeah,
is-
I mean, the main leaching
terms of the
system is
wetlands.
outside of the 100 foot.
Yeah.
So the real functional stuff is outside.
Yeah.
and it's an existing system, so this is an improvement.
There's no proposed increase in design flow, it's strictly a repair.
Thank you, sir.
The
What's,
setback,
what's the timeline for this? Is it something they're trying
They
to?
wanna
right
get it
now?
in this year, if at all possible. They've gotten a couple bids from installers. I did tell the applicant that the likelihood of getting, final stabilization this year is probably not real. He's gonna have to reseed it in the spring, once the, frost leaves the ground and the growing season starts. But as a temporary measure, the erosion controls will remain in place, and they could always sprinkle some straw or something over the exposed earth.
and what is the setback from the property line on that?
Right now, we're proposing it 15 feet,
Oh, 15.
but it could be as close as 10.
Is
The
this-
problem we had is with the water table and trying to keep the grading without a wall.
Is this National Heritage Land?
I don't believe so.
It's not.
Okay. I
No.
mean, there's a lot of Division of Fish and Wildlife land obviously off of Thurlow, so.
Yeah, yeah. If we were on the other side of North, I think we'd be in it. I think we put the map in the NOI.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's on the east side of Rose.
And I think the other side of Jewett is also priority habitat
Correct.
too.
Correct.
It's right in between those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from my perspective, it's an improvement. I mean, you've got an existing system that's in the, water table, which is not a good thing. Not really. Are there any butters to 12 Thurlow Street? Not seeing any. And your comments, Steve?
Just condition it, not approving the wetland line. Aside from that, I think it's very reasonable to approve it tonight.
I will entertain a motion.
I can't do that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the NOI for 12 Thurlow Street, but not accepting the wetland delineation.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded to approve the notice of intent for 12 Thurlow Street, GCC 2016-19, not accepting the wetland line. Is there any further discussion? Are you gonna be using any kind of hay bale, silt socks, or anything of that nature? in
We're
this?
proposing a 12-inch diameter mulch sock,
Okay,
but if the commission would prefer something different.
Oh, that's fine.
no, that's fine.
Laura, if there's a concern about wildlife going back and forth?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, all abstaining.
I have to abstain as an abutter.
So noted. I'll entertain a motion to close 12 Thurlow Street.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close 12 Thurlow Street NOI.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded to close 12 Thurlow Street. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, all abstaining.
Abstain.
One abstention, so noted.
Thank you very much.
We'll reach out Tuesday, Wednesday, when the
Great.
docs are all ready to either be mailed or picked up.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
You're
No,
welcome.
big yellow
Have a good night.
farmhouse.
Good night.
Good night.
Street.
And
You live on Tiger Road?
I know you've all been waiting for this.
Junction
You know
of Tiger.
Charlie Perry?
It being on or after 7:30.
Worked with Charlie.
I'm going to reopen Chaplain Hills Road, Brook Street, and Central Street, GCC 2015-13. And this is the delineation, confirmation of the resources on the property. And,
I've had no
We've had no-
response from the applicant. We have not received the check to initiate the third-party review. Just in holding pattern.
well, again, this is one of these cases I don't want to continue for 16 years. I'd like to kind of give the applicant adequate time to respond, and if they don't respond after a period of time, I think the commission could actually, make a ruling based on information or lack thereof, if we have no communication. I certainly don't intend to just keep doing this over and over and over again.
So they know when the last communication was?
So, this is actually the first, continuation or no-show where they did not let us know ahead of time. I emailed them Monday and said, what's your intention, are you coming Monday? On Thursday, and they didn't answer. This is the first time they haven't answered. The previous year plus, I'll get yes, please, we'd like to continue to next month.
So, I mean,
So this is the first kind of no show.
as far as due diligence, I think it's only fair to give them another month. If they don't respond by the next time, then, the commission can take appropriate action as it sees fit.
We also are beyond the delineation season, so if you recall, last
Or-
fall, they tried to rush it last
Or
minute.
the commission could continue, again, this one could be continued to the spring, if that's the case.
Given it's a year, that's, again, how long do you wait?
No, I give them the month, and then if they don't respond, the commission can make its ruling.
I thought we had some questions about the viability of the actual applicant.
Again,
I checked
with,
Yeah, I did.
Oh, the
There's no issues that would prevent this from moving forward, if
Okay.
the applicant was willing to work with us.
and
or
then
if he was
again,
here.
with the applicant not being here, with having no further information, there's not much we can do with this. You can either continue it, or you can make a ruling based on what you have, which is not much. And I don't have enough information to approve this, so those are your only options at this point.
Well, inasmuch as they've responded every month except
That's
this
correct.
month, perhaps extending it one more month,
I
and as you
agree.
say.
I agree. Let's be fair and give them, make sure we notify them, phone and or email, so that, they can't say, you didn't try. And I think as Steve made the point, nothing is gonna get done till the spring anyway. So if they don't wanna respond,
I can't even remember what state we're at.
What-
What are we waiting for?
third party, which
We're,
was never done.
sorry,
Never
as you said,
approved.
we have not had a check, sorry.
There's no
Was
way,
listening.
there's no way we can move forward with this.
Exactly, we're,
So,
right.
Yeah, and also to kind of remind you, during vernal pool season, I did go out and collect a lot of data and pictures on
Yeah.
the vernal pool activities. So we have been collecting some, on the cheap, because we didn't have to hire anyone to do that. We do have some data, so that was very helpful to get an understanding of what's out there, and it was a lot more than I had thought before I
That would,
did that.
with those amazing frog eggs and,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
huge.
So even if the applicant came in, there's no way it's gonna get approved till
Gotcha,
spring anyway at this point.
right.
And I'll open it up to, even though, again, we really need to continue this, because the abutter isn't here, I will open it up to abutters since they are here, or maybe. Okay, if you identify yourself for the record, you can speak, if you would like.
Roger LaPointe, 3 Chaplain Hills Road. At the last meeting, we presented some findings that Barbara found online from the state website. This corporation was dissolved. We've got a hard copy off the state website. It was dissolved June 30th. How does the town proceed when a corporation is dissolved per the state? What did you find out? when you
I
asked
actually,
notice?
I checked with town council, and they said, to proceed with the hearing, pretty much proceed with the hearing, you can't deny it based on that information.
But they're defunct and by the state.
Because I
I'm
think it
just-
was an
yeah.
individual who filed it, it's like,
Correct.
because it's the individual who filed it, not the corporation.
So he has his name on it, the actual application. The notice of intent filed with us was not with his corporation, it was with him personally. He personally applied for this
So
application.
legally,
But it
we're
says
obligated to,
properties on it, no-
legally, we're obligated to address the hearing because his name's on it. He filed, it's, so,
So I pursued that after you gave me that, you gave me that information. I submitted it to town council. Again, I'm a biologist.
Right,
Half
right,
the time I
right.
can barely do that. I submitted it. The word back was, you cannot deny it based on that information. And, it's more wordy. But I'm recommending to the commission to just,
So
it's information, but we can't rule on that. We can't act on that.
at this point, we don't even have any information to render a decision in the affirmative, because we're not communicating, and we don't have a third-party review, which is the technical background of our decision, so.
Right, so, saying it's, well, we're not looking at Premier Property Group, which is all, we're looking at his name. Do you verify that he has proper insurance, and building and liability and all that? Like, who verifies that?
It's more the planning board and the building inspector that would typically do that stuff.
So they do that, do they verify the building?
I have no idea. It's
See,
not us.
at this point, we're just trying to figure out where the wetlands are. Again, it's, step one, step two,
Right.
actually, at this point, we legally aren't even talking about what they wanna develop. We shouldn't even be talking about that.
Right.
We don't know.
Right,
So
I'm just
only-
trying to find a viable entity. This is his third
Yep.
renaming.
And that's all part of this process, but, this is like step one here, then the planning board's doing their thing as far as other permitting, so the first thing we need to address is this, and we're not getting very far.
Right.
Any other comments, or?
I'd raise my hand, but I can't at the current moment. Dave Milton, 56 Baldpate Road. The applicant has been asked for over 6 months to provide a check to have this done. He has not. At what point do we decide that what his interest level really is if he hasn't given a check to move forward? Because if that's what we're waiting on, we continue this for X number of months till next spring.
Well, as
How
we,
interested is this
as
applicant?
we have no idea, and again, that's where the communication comes. I mean, in due diligence, we decided to give, or we are hoping to decide to give them one more month, because they didn't communicate with us. And prior to that, they have been saying, please continue, but regardless of the communication, third party decision can't be provided till the spring anyway. So if we don't hear from them, the commission can make a ruling based on the information it has, which isn't anything.
It was this time last year that we went through this, that we have to wait till spring.
Right.
And we went through the whole season of where it could actually be done, and nothing was done by the
And
applicant.
we're back in that season. It's post-April.
Right.
It's post.
So,
15th,
So we've got a full year without.
yeah, the issue is also that even if the commission renders in the negative, that the applicant can still refile again. I mean, the process really doesn't go away. So, I mean, we can't prevent them from refiling the same thing a year from now.
Understood, but it just seems like the applicant has,
They have their, as property owners or someone who signed a PNS, they have certain rights like anyone else. So, hearing comes before us, we've got to address it. But we've got to have the communication, we've got to have the information to make the decision.
So if we deny an NOI, it's a 3-year
It's in it,
period after which they cannot reapply.
unless they
What
make,
happens with a notice of intent to actually build? This is just the ANRAD, which is where they're defining where the wetland lines are on the property. So
I don't know, to answer your question. I don't know
I
how
don't
long
know
it is.
if,
So you could have a 3-year window where they cannot reapply to do
Yeah.
it.
but
Carl
see,
and I
that
had this
that
conversation.
3-year window is only if they apply exactly the same. The 3-year window, if they modify the plan significantly, they can file again.
But it has to be accepted by the commission as a significant
That's
change.
right.
When you're
Right,
talking
okay.
wetland delineation, I don't know to answer your question. This
So-
came up late today with
We
Carl and
had
I.
this, we had a discussion
Yeah.
and,
Right.
it's-
So I guess for the
Okay.
public's, when you file an application and it's denied, the applicant cannot reapply for 3 years. We're not sure if that's the case for this process for an ANRAD. If it is and it's denied, then there's a 3-year window where it can't reapply for this permit.
And-
Potentially,
and
we just have to figure that
The
out.
only way, the commission can only deny something like this based on lack of information, because we don't have it, we don't have the information we
I
need.
mean,
well,
you
they're
could-
not allowing us to get the information.
Well, that's correct, so,
Totally.
that's correct.
Have we, do we deny an ANRAD or do we just close it
No, you
for
deny it.
lack of information? We
You
deny it.
due to lack of information.
Okay,
And again, I'll email them and just use stronger language, you know, please send the check in, please attend the next meeting. You know, the commission, you know, would like to rule on this
So, I
at the
mean,
next meeting.
that would be my approach, to, you know, try to communicate with them. They have been in the past, at least contacting Steve. They've stopped. Let's give them one more month, ask them why, try to, you know, phone, email. And if they don't, the commission at the next hearing can, you know, render the decision that it feels it needs to, based on the information we have or don't have. And that way the applicant can't say, well, you know, you didn't try to communicate with us, how come you closed it, you know, we wanted to open.
We can also continue it to 7 o'clock, so these nice folks don't have to wait an hour and a half.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, 7 o'clock in the spring.
And it should be a quick one if nothing, there's nothing.
So,
Are you talking about continuing it to the spring or to?
Either way.
give them, I wouldn't even bother, I'd give them a month and then, you know, make the decision at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, any other comments from abutters before we, move this on? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to continue this, to November 17th?
Do we have it 7 o'clock yet?
Yes, we do. I leave that open for easy ones.
Pardon?
7 o'clock.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, let's continue Chaplain Hillbrook Street, Central Street, GCC 2015-13, DEP 1610811, to November 17th at 7 o'clock.
We have a motion, Ms. Sicker, to continue the notice of intent for Chaplain Hills Road, Brook Street, and Central Street to November 17th at 7 o'clock. Is there any further discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? So motioned.
Thank you. folks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, folks.
Right.
Introduce yourself. Do you want to introduce yourself? Commissioner, or are you okay just hanging out? Yeah, come on up. So Carl, I'm a gentleman interested in getting on the commission.
Okay. We still have an
He's
exec.
changing his mind. No, don't go.
Now that he sat in a meeting, he's out of here.
Quick, lock the door. You can't leave.
Oh,
We still have to do some administrative business here. And the way we normally do that is we move into executive session and close from.
I retract that offer. He's just here to kind of see what we're all about and what we do.
did you just retract it?
Well, I offered. I shouldn't have said
Oh.
anything. No.
Don't wake up.
Sorry. Carl, so I've,
So do we have any other business before we go into executive session?
I have
We have bills?
couple of discussions that I didn't get in
Okay.
time for this, to get on the agenda. I got bills, and then we can go into the executive session and not come back on air.
We'll do
Um,
and you, since some of you haven't experienced it before, it's a roll call vote that we do, and then go into executive session.
So the bills I have are Edom Electric for Camp Dennison, $57. Georgetown Water for the community gardens, over $1,000.
What?
It was a
For what?
really dry year. Community gardens, so you have,
Water, yeah.
you know, 15 spigots, 100+ people down there. The reason I kind of focus on that, though, is, you know, comment, our per plot's $10.
So the bill was $1,000 for water?
The water bill, you know, our fees don't even cover the water bill, so we gotta
They
reevaluate.
Looked into whether it has a leak?
We are.
Or did somebody
water-
leave it on, like 24/7?
You know, I think some people are putting like drip irrigation where they're leaving it on longer, and again, it was a drought condition, a lot of people were watering out there, it's agriculture,
Well,
so I guess it's exempt. I guess
this-
my point is just kind of,
this
we're
is-
working on a gardens
This is
project.
not sustainable
No, it's not.
financially at
No,
$1,000.
So we're looking to do some improvements down there, we're looking to raise the fees, we're looking at a lot of different things with the gardens. Again, I don't wanna focus on the water bill, but it's a doozy.
Maybe some rain barrels and stuff like that if we ever.
Well,
get
the
rain.
only thing,
Yeah,
with-
but
the
there's
only
no
thing with rain
roofs,
barrels.
there's
is
no
that
roofs to
they're
capture.
mosquitoes.
So I actually talked about potentially looking at some of the neighbors wanna gutter their roofs to cisterns that can
Oh.
water the gardens, cause there's a house right next door.
That's cool.
The other side there isn't. Again, it's just trying to think of outside the box ways of making this better. Reimbursement,
And then the question comes in when we had like
So-
water restrictions this past summer.
$600.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You need to look at
Totally.
factoring in a policy for us to address watering. You know,
Yes,
so, you know, if everyone else is restricted on water use, they
Yes.
shouldn't be turning the spigots on wide open.
absolutely.
So we need to, like, make sure we
Yeah,
look
my
at that.
sunflowers are this high.
Yeah, BFC Group reimbursement, $800. This is for the review of 66 Parish Road that Laura and I were remembering from a month ago. Electrician work down at Camp Dennison, $448. Amesbury Industries, $88. Hardware. Camp Dennison caretaker, cell, and computer service, $245.
Is that for a month?
No, that's not for a month. I don't believe. 3 months. Light bill down at Camp Dennison, $276. Georgetown Building Supply, 16. Camp Dennison, also hardware. That's it. Oh, wait a minute. There was one. Sorry. There was one that just seemed weird to me that I was gonna bring up. Oh. Where's this one? I'm glad I remembered. I haven't gotten clarification on this. Jim Lacy for the Camp Dennison Committee put in they bought a game camera, $469.
It's an expensive one. Why?
It's an expensive one. They got some batteries and some memory cards. The actual camera's $424. I didn't get, so I don't bring bills to you guys unless I know what they are and I kind of agree with what is being spent. I don't know if they're having potential concerns of vandalism and want to put game cameras on some of their buildings. I did not get a chance to chat with him about this yet.
It'd make more sense to hook up like a webcam, outdoor webcams.
But the remote ones might be harder to do that. So the
They're-
again,
they're-
I'm
They're wireless these
yeah.
days. You
I
don't-
brought this up because I don't know what this is. I can't.
I know what a game
explain
cam
it.
is, and that's an expensive one,
Um,
very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you can have $200, a decent one.
Get it
It's
for
a
$9.
good one. I mean, they start around $60, $70.
Prices come down big time.
So I always, I pull it just because I don't know what
Can-
this is.
Yeah, can we find out?
I
guess
can
would-
pull it for this one and bring it back, okay. I just don't like to push things through without you guys
Well, I
knowing what
guess,
they
I
are.
guess I'd ask, you know, why are they using it? Is there as you said, is there a problem, something we need to know about?
So Susan actually emailed back, because there's some vendor information that wasn't in here we needed anyways, but you could have still signed it, we can resolve that afterwards, but, I asked you to ask him what it was for, just so I can give you guys an idea of what's going on.
Maybe Chris Roop is part of it, because he's actually from the technology field himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a pretty good camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Just need a motion to pay bills.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion to
You can?
pay the bills as read by Steve?
I second the motion.
We have
to
a,
pay the bill.
we have a motion that's been
Who's-
seconded to pay the
who's
bills,
first
as read by
one?
Steve. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. And any other business we need to deal with before executive session?
Paperwork. This is the certification of compliance for 11 Martell. The person came in, they impacted the wetlands by moving the road over. All of the action items that I had concerns with were resolved. The commission at the last meeting authorized the wetland restoration work and the planting. All of that's been done, inspected. They did everything they were asked to do. The as-built, again, it doesn't look pretty because of this impacted wetlands, but I believe they're in compliance with the original order of conditions, so I'm recommending approving that. Order of conditions for tonight's meeting, 12 Thurlow Street. Same thing for 7 Lake Ave that you approved tonight. This is 35 Monroe Street. So they put in a request for a certification on 35 Monroe, which was a septic system replacement. Once we got into this, we discovered that they had lost the original order of conditions and never registered it. So it's kind of funny, they're requesting a COC on an order of condition that was never issued. Now, you could just pretend like they don't exist, but that's probably not good kind of administrative tracking things. So you're actually gonna be re-signing an order of conditions for this project, and at the same, then next step is signing a certification. So you're kind of re-signing the approval and then signing the closeout document. So if you actually read and pay attention to what you're signing, you would have noticed that it's kind of weird that you're signing an approval and a closeout.
When did they do that?
So this is, fairly recent. This is a 2016 project.
Okay.
It's one of those, they did it quick and they just, for whatever reason, didn't register it and it got lost, so they asked for
I
$100.
thought we were gonna put some sort of penalty for the people who,
Reissuances are $150 to reissue a document.
because we've just run into that so often.
Yeah, this one's kind of unusual, to be honest with you.
Do you want to make a motion for that?
Nope, nope, it's administrative.
So now that the growing season's over, you can take a look at the whole policy for the garden thing too.
So that's next. Drew has done an enormous amount of work on the gardens. I don't know how far we want to go into the details on this, but we're starting to refine plans on improving the access to and around the gardens.
Yeah,
We have enough detail that we're starting to get estimates on the work. We have about $10,000 to $15,000 that we can put towards this project.
Well, there was some CPC funds allocated for
So we have
this.
that's where that 15,000 is coming from, and there's a little more in a Concom controlled account that we could also use. Again, Andrew, Drew's done a huge amount of work, literally. He pretty much has created a packet that we can bid out and supervise the project based on all this. I don't know how much detail you wanna go into. He made a whole bunch of copies of this. I mean, maybe we can just kind of concept, look at what we're looking to do, because what I'm looking for tonight, we've been talking about this for a long time. I'm looking to actually get authorization to actually start spending money. Up till now, it's, through me. I spent a couple of hours out there this week.
Well,
It doesn't cost any money.
The question, is this something that we're looking to bid out, or is it something that we were looking to do internally?
So, I think I've talked,
Depends on the scope.
I hope Peter Durkee's not listening to this, because I'm gonna kind of offer him, he's willing to do some work. He's come back and said, I'm willing to do some of this work, but he can't do it all. So it's kind of a hybrid, Carl. He doesn't have the larger equipment that we would need to,
Same as Camp Dennison.
Yeah.
Same thing.
yeah, I mean, he's gonna do a lot. He's gonna save us a ton of money. But to answer your question, he can't do everything. He doesn't have big enough equipment.
Well, I think it's part of the project, if you really looked at this, to figure out what we can do internally and then what you sub out as a big
Correct.
package.
Yeah.
So I think this is probably the best one, just, this is what the proposal is, or one of the proposals, I think it's probably the best way to put it. There's a kind of current conditions and all this other stuff, but I think this gives you I think it gives you an idea of what things look like, and I'll let you you speak for yourself on this, because this is mostly your heavy lifting.
Let's see,
I think that's enough. There's one in between you guys that hasn't been handed down yet.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I know somebody started, kind of an impromptu tree cutting down there to kind of work on the parking
Yes, we,
last year. I kind of go by one day, I'm like, what's going on?
yeah, that was, the brush clearer. We do that almost every year. No large
Well,
trees.
there was some trees taken down.
There.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
there were
That
about,
wasn't,
there were about a dozen trees taken down.
The yellow is all brand new?
Yeah,
correct.
I can kind of explain this a little bit to you. Basically, I went out there and tried to take note of existing conditions. There's no survey done here, and I have an existing conditions plan I put together that doesn't show all the proposed work that we have here, but basically got the property information from the Essex Registry of Deeds, and put it together with topographical information that I got off the internet, for U.S. Coast and Geodetic stuff. It's not very accurate, but it's good enough to kind of understand where the dips and valleys are on the property and so forth.
Right.
And then I superimposed the garden using the aerial from, believe it or not, Google Maps. So we have the extent of the garden shown here and so forth. But we looked at 3 schemes, and this was scheme C. And basically what we're trying to do the north is to the left, so, on this plan.
So you've got like an access road around the
Yeah,
whole
so,
thing or something.
yeah, so basically, right now, there's an existing access on what I say the east side, at the
Right.
top of the page.
Right, by the
And
sign.
what we're trying to do is, one of the things we're looking at doing is widening that, make it, about 20 feet wide so that you can park along
Yeah,
there.
and this would still, this would obviously be just dirt, correct?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, just basically making it just loamed and seeded. And as long as it's stable, I mean,
Right.
and we'd find some of that out as we're going through and doing the work. The one thing we have to do on the east side is we'd have to cut into an embankment there, because the ground starts to rise at the edge of the existing drive, so there'd be some work there. There's a lot of debris out there that has to get cleaned out. So, that is basically a widening of the eastern drive. To the west, which you see circulating around next to Andover Street, and then out to the edge of what is the cleared area right now. You can see the edge of trees is kind of shown around this. We're talking about just creating a 10-foot wide road down there, at least at this point in time. One big issue on the site is the topography on the northwest corner, which is the bottom left of your plan. We're talking about filling that in and using material that we're scarifying from the various things that we're creating here and putting it in there, just to try to raise the grade in that area.
So it's just a depression down there, just.
Yeah,
just an-
yeah, so
Because
just-
this slopes off.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
it's not a depression, that's the start of.
Yeah,
Oh, it
I've
really
walked the
dives,
I've walked the
yeah,
trails, and
yeah,
actually coming up that hill
yeah.
is really steep if you go
Yes.
down there.
So we're not gonna
Yeah.
fill it, we're not gonna fill it, it's just to gentle that slope a bit, because to fill it, you'd have to chase that slope to China. So it's not, we can't make that back area flat, it's just to gentle it
Yeah,
a
it
bit.
goes all the way down to, there's like a brook down the bottom of
Yeah.
that thing.
So a regular car can get through there,
Yeah.
you don't need an SUV to
That's
get.
that's the hope, that's the.
Yeah,
that's the plan.
right, right now,
We don't know.
I wouldn't take anything but an SUV down there.
Yeah.
They call this, you can see the existing west access drive, they call that a drive, but it's
Well, you know,
barely a drive, you know?
You know what, then I guess I'd be nervous that someone's gonna drive back there in their little car and get
Yeah.
stuck.
So
Yeah.
we actually don't know, part of this is, we're not spending $20,000 on engineering.
Right.
We don't know what that's gonna turn into. If we don't have enough material that we're bringing from other areas on the site to that spot, maybe the road stops 20, 30 feet short.
Yeah.
So if it's not passable, then we're not gonna call it access.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not, this is what we hope to do. This is not 100% what we're gonna
Right.
do. If we don't have the material to bring there, then the road's gonna stop much
Yeah,
shorter.
I mean, we can't build like a big engineering structure here to,
No.
a roadway
No.
to, it's just,
It's just be piecemeal. If you have material, you put it down there and make it a little higher, that kind of a thing. The one thing we also talked about doing is, and cause this area's already been cleared, but on the west side, there's an area here that's about 50 feet by about 400.
that was some of the area that
That
they
was
cut the
cleared
trees out.
earlier on, right, that's where it was, what was it, about 6, 7 months? No, how long ago did we do that, clear that off?
Yeah, spring.
Yeah, yeah. So, that's basically most of the work that we're talking about doing at this point in time, is basically putting in the drives or enhancing the drives that are there right now.
And the other part I'd like Peter to address is actually, you may not know, there's actually supposed to be a parking entrance to Lufkin's Brook off of
Yeah.
133 there, which is all overgrown. And actually, the guardrails break at that parking entrance, that should be
There's a
tied
beaten
to
up,
this and cleared out,
Yeah.
so,
there's a beaten up sign in there too, I think.
exactly, people can go in there and park, and there are a whole bunch of trails down there.
Yeah.
Most people don't know about, but you can get them from West Street or from that area.
How
And
far,
actually,
I'm sorry, how far down is that from the
it's
gardens?
only maybe 200, 300 yards, maybe?
Oh, okay.
It's right on that
Yeah.
hill.
Yeah.
Right up from the VFW.
Probably about halfway
I
between the
should know.
You
VFW
could
and.
probably throw a stone at the tank
Yeah.
from where that
Okay.
is.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, that should be, it should be part of this overall project. I mean, and those, we have funds that could, to do that.
So, this area up here on the top left is a potential borrow area for getting fill.
Mhm.
It's basically a low-rise hill that we could take the top off and then turn it into a garden area. The whole problem with this area in general at the back of the site is it's so steep that it makes it a little,
And as far as, like,
tough to garden, basically.
and as far as, you know, the SOP of operation of the garden, I think we should probably set up what I would call perennial and then an annual area, so, because you've got
Yeah.
two groups of
Yeah,
people.
so I think that's kind of our, I'll be honest with you, our phase two. We started to mention the fact that we were considering doing this, and we got a lot of gardeners that got upset. You can't do that, we need to be
Yeah.
involved, some really, really aggressive letters. And we pretty much told everyone, we aren't talking about that, we're just talking about improving the access. Phase two will be kind of getting what I call control of the main garden. The SOP right now is there's no perennial crops that are allowed there. Right now, there are a ton of perennial crops, and people don't want their plots to be plowed up or moved because of those perennial crops. My hope, given the way this plan was designed, that 50 by like 400, that's new plot area, and we can maybe set that up to be the perennial area,
Yeah,
and people can transplant. So there's a lot of options, but I don't want to get too caught up in, I call it phase two, because we have, we've been spending 10 years on this and haven't gone anywhere. I want to improve the road, raise the fees, start getting some money to make improvements. And then don't rent out those plots, the newly created ones, till we have an SOP, till we have a plan of how to get, there's some plots, Susan and I went out there this week and literally went through every single plot and rated it as far as, are they taking care of it? Is it abandoned? Is it being done organically? Right down the line. So there's probably 10 of them that people are paying for and not doing anything.
Are we
Exactly.
gonna need anything to be done with the water access on this, or not?
So the water line at the west entrance is right in the middle of the main digging area. I don't believe, depends on how deep it is. Once we get out there, we'll get a sense. I think a lot of it's just laying on the surface.
yeah, some of it's on the surface,
Yeah, I
some of
think-
it's probably shallow.
The other ones are fairly shallow. Both of them are gonna be impacted by this. I have a note to myself to talk to the water department to see what they can maybe do to help us out.
That listed all that, you'll notice there's tasks here, I go 1 through 6, I think, or 7. There's a detailed listing of what each task involves, and one of them addresses the water system there as to what we think
Yeah,
needs to be
okay,
done.
I see that.
We talked about maybe going 3 or 4 feet down and making them frost valves.
He was gonna upsize the pipe too.
Yep.
If he's got a 1-inch pipe there, he could actually use that as a puller to pull a larger pipe through,
Mm-hmm.
buried underground. Theoretically, they're able to do that. It's things like that. We talked about some
Yeah.
small detail stuff, but my thoughts in general are that this is just a way of getting everybody involved and coming up with actual final ideas. The access is one thing, but then you gotta think about how you actually operate it and some of the things that we need to put on the site that are not there. And those are all listed in my comments that I have. And we shouldn't get into them now, but at least it gives you the benefit, at least what my thoughts are on
Well,
that.
this is good.
So,
Good
Yeah,
job. It looks great.
terrific, really good.
Can you put valves on the pipes that would limit the amount of water that comes out? Do they have? such-
Probably, yeah. I can, again, that task 4 of irrigation,
Yeah.
that's, in my head at least, 8 steps ahead of where I am right now. I'm just trying to get this roadway
Yeah,
done.
okay.
Make it freeze-proof or not freeze-proof.
Yeah.
I think we don't have enough money, because freeze-proof means literally trenching 3-4 feet deep, thousands of linear feet. That's a lot of money versus one of these irrigation pullers, just put it 8 inches down
yeah,
for pennies. We're trying to juggle how best to do it. When we get to that point, the west side is gonna be tilled up pretty good, so it's gonna be loose soil, no roots, no rocks. The other side, it's, what this doesn't show, well, it does, you show the tree line. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to pull a pipe through that whole edge, given how close it is to big trees. Maybe that gets moved to just inside towards the west of the road, closer to the plots, versus stretching hoses across the roadway. So the irrigation has to be refined, and a lot of that's based on all the site work's done, the roads are in. Okay, how can we lay these things out?
Right.
So,
well, the other thing too is, I'm showing the new west access drive right up against where the current tree line is, so we'd have to do some clearing there. But the other option is if we left the existing access drive where it is, then we could just use, the garden area could expand on the other side of it, out to the
Between-
trees.
between-
Near the trees.
And then the drive would be closer to, some of the.
Central plots.
Yeah.
The
so-
existing plots
So,
versus the
you know,
new future ones.
I mean, this is really, really rough, and I make mention of these kind of comments, you know, as people go forward to consider it, but, and the other thing I thought too is the fact that this is such a rural community. Most of the community gardens that I've seen around are in more of a, not a city, a little more urban, and you're really dealing with, your issues are probably different in the fact that this is so expansive, and you have the opportunity for hundreds of people to come here, and it's a little more difficult to manage if you do that. Most of them are smaller than that, and they're probably got more money thrown at them too, but if they're in a larger city, so those kind of managerial things that you gotta think about.
Do you need to be a Georgetown resident to have
No.
a plot there?
No, you do not.
No.
We give preference to them. Again, there's rules and regs to all this
Again,
that haven't been followed.
There
for-
are rules and regs. We can,
Yeah.
you know, if the commission would like to look at
It-
that.
Yeah, it is in there, preferential treatments given to Georgetown residents, but a couple came in this week,
And-
very excited that are North Andover residents.
And I'll
they
tell you,
love it out there.
because this land is, it was obviously before my time, but this is part of Lufkin's Brook, and I believe the federal government was involved in some of the funding for the purchase of Lufkin's Brook. So hence, if you have the government involved, other than town, you have to have it open to
Right.
other people. You can't say Georgetown only, you know, with beaches or recreation facilities, if the state or federal money's involved.
Yep.
Right.
That's, you know,
Yep.
tax revenues,
Yeah.
you
So-
can't restrict it that way.
So this is part of Lufkin.
Yes.
It is.
So,
Yeah, it's on the property.
so I guess what I'm looking for from the commission is just kind of a head nod. We don't need to vote. The money's there. You know, this is, we've been talking about doing it for a while. I'd
I
like
like
to
the
like break
direction.
some ground this fall and get Peter Durkee, you know, it might be phased, maybe it's, you know, there's a little bit of tree trimming. We're not gonna cut trees per se. A lot of the activity on the edge, the equipment needs some head space, so it's not hitting all the branches. So we're gonna hedge prune one edge.
Yeah.
There are a couple of trees that might come down. Earmuffs, quick, earmuffs. A couple of trees that might come down to improve.
Using dynamite, I think.
Exactly. You can eat. So, again, I'm hoping we'll start some stuff this fall, and maybe all of it
Come down, does this go with the checklist that's being
on its
drafted?
way. Yes,
Okay.
it's right after that.
But
And
there's-
aside
there's-
from
there's-
that,
there's no resource here right where this is. I mean, there's
Way
plenty
down
of
the hill.
resource areas on Lufkin's Brook, but they're down
so
on the lower
Yes,
portion. It's
exactly.
actually quite wet down there.
It's all open
Yeah.
land. I've got a print of the aerial there. You can kind of see where the garden is and what's around it. At the back of the site, there's like a younger growth, like it's before you get into the heavy woods,
Yeah,
and
it
that's
was-
the area where we're talking about
Yeah,
clearing.
it was probably
Oh,
cut
so
over
it's a successional
20 years
sort
ago
of
or
thing,
something.
yeah.
they used to
Yeah,
grow corn
yeah,
back there,
yeah.
apparently.
I mean, and none of this is cast in stone, like, it's just, it gets everybody thinking as much.
It's
And so
super.
keep in mind that
Thanks, Drew.
this is not jurisdictional to the commission, because there's no resources nearby, but the commission's in charge of care and custody of this
Yep.
land. So it's before you for that. So it's
So
not gonna
what's
be
the
an
next
application.
step?
I'll talk to Peter Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Did 99.99% of it. yeah.
Thanks,
job.
Drew.
Good job.
Is this fenced in, by the way?
It is not.
No.
So how do you keep animals from?
Well, that's
You plant twice as much.
my list of things to consider on this. I got some design guidelines from, I think somewhere in California, some town in California. It gives you all the design guidelines for a community garden, and you just read through that and you say, oh yeah, well, that doesn't apply to us. Well, we haven't thought about this, you know. It's those kind of things that.
I know no one's ever approached us about issues about, you know, obviously, you know, say deer or whatever
There
eating.
must be deer
It
and
has to be.
Of course there
groundhogs.
Groundhogs.
Sorts of stuff out there.
I had my corn pulled out of the ground
Oh.
and 50 feet
Oh.
from my garden.
That was actually me. Yeah.
What would do that?
Animal.
Coyote.
A woodchuck?
Coyotes.
I don't think so. They don't pull out of the ground.
Coyotes
A
pull
bear
corn.
would do that, but
No.
I haven't heard any bears.
I've seen pictures
Fairly
of coyote
possible.
doing it.
Bob, Morehouse used to have a picture on the stand of a coyote with a full corn stalk in his
Coyotes-
mouth,
I was wondering- Coyotes
don't eat
running
corn.
away with it.
And they ate the corn. I mean,
Correct.
these
Yeah,
things were.
they
Coyotes
rip
eat
it up
corn?
and eat,
Nah.
eat the corn.
They
I
gotta be
saw,
really
I saw the
hungry.
picture.
I saw the picture. He had a,
So that's maybe what it was.
Probably
not
was
a
something
nanny
in it.
cam, a game cam
There probably
back
was
out in
something
the
in his
field.
mouth that he wanted, not the corn.
Maybe.
Um,
I need a game camera.
So that's all the business I have. We do need to go into executive session, and as Carl mentioned, he'll call, and it's a different kind of form of going into it.
So,
And I do believe we're not gonna go back on camera afterwards, because the meeting will adjourn from there.
so, the commission needs to go into executive session to discuss some litigation. And from that executive session, we will adjourn. So to everyone in the audience, good evening. And I will have a roll call vote to go into executive session. Aye, Carl Schrader.
Yes or no, Drew?
Yes. Yes.
I, Laura Replier.
Yes, Nick Fights.
So motion. Good night, everyone.